Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. This is Night Owls, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of crazy things. One of the things we are going to be talking about a little bit today is critical race theory. What is it exactly? I thought we'd get into that. I'm not going to do a TFT per se on it, but just
You
kind of
might as
a.
well.
I
It's a
guess I might as well.
it's a conspiracy theory like any other.
Yeah, well, it's a Marxist one. But we're going to cover that a little bit at the end. So I don't know. Maybe I'll throw up the TFT logo and intro. We haven't heard it in a while. Maybe we should. But nevertheless, we're going to get to that later. We're going to do some other things first. But before we do get into that, I hope you guys are going to go out there and hit that like button and share this. I don't know where we're supposed to share things now. I've kind of lost the plot with that in regards to that. And you guys know I'm not good when it comes to this SNS stuff. What do you call it? Social? What do you call it? Social media? I guess what you call it over there.
That
Uh,
is what they call it now. Yeah.
yeah. But social media, I'm not good with that stuff. You know, I'm not good with that stuff. Twitter doesn't work for me anyway, so I'm like, well, I never used it anyhow, so that doesn't matter. Facebook is become the absolute enemy of humanity, which I never really used that either. But I have one. But these companies are bad. Are there alternatives that I should switch over? Because we do need something where we can communicate easily. I mean, it is convenient. Well, what should we switch over to, Thunder? Do you have any clue? I don't.
I have a Gab account. I don't use it very often. Um, Gab's not too terrible if you're not a snowflake who gets offended by evil racism. And you don't even have to see any of that if you don't want to. I mean, it's its own. Like the internet used to be 5 years ago. You can kind of just avoid the bad stuff if you don't want to see it. Crazy, right? Just don't go to the places where it's at, or you see somebody who is engaging in those things that you find personally reprehensible, instead of walking to those people and engaging with them, you just ignore them. I
Yeah,
don't.
no. I usually stayed away from the gay Hooker Street. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
just stay away from the things you
yeah,
dislike, and guess what? You're a happier person.
yeah. I warned Booster. I don't know if he's listening, but I told him to stay away.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
better.
it's
But no,
better.
Gab's not terrible. It works a lot better now than it used to. Let's see. I don't personally like Parlor. I think I don't dislike it. When I used it, it was fine. Like it worked fine.
Hmm.
But there's some seriously questionable decision making at the people who run that. So I just don't particularly use it. But really, that's about it. I think one of the best places, honestly, is Discord. Find Discord servers, um, and I am banned on Facebook. So if you like Facebook, you can use that, I guess.
I wonder,
But I am completely banned.
can you share YouTube on Discord? You should be able to.
Yeah, I do every time we stream. In fact,
Huh.
I forgot to. Hang on.
Huh. That's
Ba-ba-ba-ba.
interesting. Let me go check it that thing. There's a little button there. There's a little share button, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do they have Discord on here? They got Reddit. I got a lot of Russian stuff. Why do I have Russian stuff? I don't know.
Why
Tumblr, does
not?
that even exist? LinkedIn, I haven't used that in forever.
Let's see.
Goo, what the hell is a Goo? Mix, Skyrocket, Blogger. This one, what is this? Uh, uh, Uthkekruden. Yeah. And
The other option,
Bu-
Chester, is just
Burgtarkta.
when you click the little share button, the copy link option comes up. You just copy that and bam,
Oh yeah,
paste
you
it
could
into
do like
wherever you're
that.
going.
You could do that. You could do that. That's true. They also have a Korean thing called Talk. We don't need that. We have a thing called email. What's that? Reddit. Does that still exist? WhatsApp. What's a WhatsApp? I have no clue. Oh well. I don't see Discord anywhere on there as an option. However, oh well. Uh, I am so lame when it comes to this shit, dude. I really don't, because I don't care, right? Here in Japan, I have one app that I use, and all Japanese use, and it's called Line. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I don't know if you have it over there, but it's kind of a one and all, one stop for everything. You can do video, you can do live chat, you can send DMs, You whatever. It's I don't know if they have it in the West, but in Japan, everybody uses that. And I've never had anything banned on it. I've never had anything that I couldn't say on it. It's just an open app. I mean, go figure, right? Something where you could just communicate. You know,
Yeah, the internet 5 years ago. Yeah.
yeah,
Man,
uh,
Trump scared the shit out of the tech overlords. They're still afraid of that man.
yeah,
He pushed all of their plans for control and censorship into high gear. They were so afraid
yeah.
of the weird orange man from New York who likes women in gold.
Yeah, no, right? The gaudy guy. But
Yeah.
the funny thing about it is, in I study historical things no matter what it is, right? I have my specialty, of course, everybody does. But I just kind of always enjoy just looking at history, and a really interesting part of history for me is the period between 1600 and 1800, right? Because there's a lot of mystery in there. There's a lot of weird things that went on that we just don't know.
Hmm.
And we know that in the 1600 during the Protestant Reformation, or the Lutheran, Reformation, that popped off and all the death and stuff. We don't know how bad it really was. We know it was bad because we see art from the period that shows as if it was just apocalypse on Earth. But the writing doesn't talk about that. But yet we know that a lot of our history was rewritten at that moment. They burned a lot of books and rewrote them, right? So this period of time is very interesting because it's a mystery. We don't really know. We don't even know if our dates are accurate. We don't really know that hardly any of the information we have is real. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
everything you grow up reading could be a complete fabrication, right? I mean, that's how bad it was. It's so bad we don't know how bad it was, and that's not good, right? So that's fascinating to anybody who's an honest historian. It sounds like. Let me just check, make sure your mic's working real quick. Go ahead, dude.
Hello, 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 hello,
Yeah,
hello.
okay, it's working. Good, good. But anyway, to get to my point, um, after whatever really happened in with the Reformation, that big pop off, it was basically pushing against the Catholic Church, is what it was, separation from the
Yeah.
Catholic Church. We know that one of the big parties that was part of allowing the European rulership, the kings, sovereignties, to push themselves away from the Catholic Church little by little, were the Jewish bankers, the Rothschilds in particular. That was their time to shine. Now they've always been involved in politics. They've always had things, but they've also always been the enemy, right? But it was during
Hmm.
that period that we got our modern naming of Europe, of the countries. Of course, the deal came out where they get their own land, which is what Switzerland is. Switzerland is literally a payment for the money they gave to reestablish Europe, right? And during that 200-year period, a lot of a lot of chaos was going on, and coming out the back of it, these people trying to separate themselves from the power of the Catholic Church, which they kind of successfully did. They found that they had created a chaos. They had created a monster, right? So they were desperate to try to pull it back and regain power because, in essence, they had given power away unintentionally, I think, to attain their goals. And from around 1800 until now, there's a whole bunch of books that were written by these mega bankers and these mega power movers, that not royal ones, but ones that they're these monetary banking people. And of course, the Industrial Revolution was kicking off too, right?
Yeah.
And if you go back and read those books, it's quite fascinating because they're all talking about how to create this new world order, right? And
Hmm.
every idea in those books have come to fruition, every one. And what you're looking at is a 200-year long concerted effort to regain complete dominance over humanity, right? And they've been working at it patiently. That's a long time to it. That's generational, right? To work that out, unless they're aliens. We have to keep that in here. Anyway, but seriously, it's generational, right? And the funny thing is, they were slowly but surely gaining what they wanted, right? And then all of a sudden, because it is very much a slowly but surely thing if you look at it historically, right? And they just success, success, success is constantly going their way, and
Yep.
then Trump comes along,
Yeah.
and they panic for some reason, and they pull the trigger. I think a couple of decades early.
Yeah, I think they did too, and I think that's going to be the end of them.
It might
Uh,
be.
I
Might
think
work out
they
the
had
same thing.
everything.
Yeah.
They had everything set up perfectly, demographically all over the world. Institutionally, they had already seized all the institutions long
Yeah.
ago, but now they had them set up perfectly, and they had everything going their way slowly but surely. And I think they were not expecting a populist revolt. It happened all over the world all at once. Like it was
did.
spontaneous populist revolt. 2016 was like the peak zenith year of it so far.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they saw that coming. Now, maybe they did, but I don't personally subscribe to the idea that these people are gods because I don't think a lot of them saw Hitler becoming Hitler coming either.
Well, I think
I
they kind
think
of made Hitler. Let's be fair.
they made him, but they didn't expect him. Let's put it that way. So what I mean by that is they were funding him and this and that. They needed a boogeyman, but I think he became a bigger boogeyman than even they expected.
Yeah,
Kind of
I
like
think
Saddam
so.
Hussein.
Yeah,
Kind of
because
like in that way.
yeah, in a way, I think you're right. One of the things about Hitler, and most people don't know, and the propaganda kind of turns you away from him, and understanding this, and that maybe this is part of it went a little sideways on him,
Yeah.
is the fact because all these big banking conglomerates were backing Hitler during the wars. Keep that in mind, right? Even though they're not all German, clearly they're not. Matter of fact, they're all Jews. That's interesting. However, but one of the things people don't know about Adolf Hitler is he was a devout Catholic.
Yep.
And he was extremely devout, and a lot of his, sure, Himmler and Goebbels and all those guys are they're the true evil of the Nazi movement. To be fair, but Adolf was a true believer, easy to manipulate, right? And
Mm-hmm.
but what he did over in Spain and stuff like that, he felt that there was a Jewish revolt against Europe, against humanity, and
Yep.
he needed to put it down. And that's why it was so easy for these other guys who were, just evil dudes. I mean, evil people always glom onto these kind of movements, right? And I'm not saying Adolf didn't do bad things. Of course he did, but he's a true believer. It's a little different. These guys are just mercurial, right?
Yep.
But people really forget what Germany did in Spain, right? And other places where they were trying to push back the Jewish threat. And of course, another thing people don't understand with Marxism, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, is the fact that the Marxist movement was Karl Marx himself was all created and propagated, not necessarily in collaboration, but promulgated by the Jews, dude. It was very much
Yeah.
a Jewish movement,
I
and
mean,
that
Marx is a Jew. Karl Marx was a
yeah,
Jew.
yeah, he was.
Uh,
But I'm saying I don't know that there was direct collaboration with Marx. I think they saw an idea and they just jumped on it. The Zionists did, and it's
oh yeah, of
ironic
course.
because the Nazis and Hitler is certainly part of that. I don't know if he really was a big part of the structure of it or not, but he was certainly part of it. But taking the Italian new political system, fascism, because keep in mind the Germans didn't create fascism, the Italians did, and fascism is just a more nationalistic, nationally centric Marxism, right? That's all it was. And it's ironic that even though he was pushing back against the Jews, and initially, I think legitimately, he was running a government that was ultimately of Jewish creation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I find that ironic, and I wonder if Hitler understood the irony of it.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I honestly I don't know, but I can see how you could separate that in your brain and not have it conflict with like a cognitive bias,
Probably.
especially being a Christian,
Yeah, no, he
and
was a
Jesus,
devout Catholic, yeah. Yeah.
right? With Jesus being of Israeli, Hebrew, Jewish, whatever you want to call it, descent, uh, yet still worshiping him as God, as the
Hmm.
Catholics claim to.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there's been a lot of people who've been able to make that separation, right, from Jewish ideas or even Jewish people in that case to adhering to their ideology or using their ideas or whatever
Yeah.
to achieve their goals. And I don't think that's even that rare. I think we all do it. Everybody you know is going to be anti-slavery, right? Nobody likes slavery. It's wrong. It's abhorrent. It's evil. I don't think there's a person alive who would make an actual positive case for slavery.
I could
Yet
use a few.
we all use it every day,
We do.
every single day of the year, every single day of the year, every single day of the week. There's slaves toiling away making our products, or effectively slaves making our products. So
Yeah.
it's not as hard as you think to compartmentalize that kind of stuff, right? It's actually pretty easy, especially if you have an overarching goal, which Hitler had multiple, and some good, some bad. By the way, like my wife pointed out, she said, "Listen, Hitler couldn't have been all bad. He loved dogs." I'm like, "Hey, that's a good point."
That's a good point. But not like we're making a case for Hitler here.
No,
But Mussolini
no,
Mussolini was far worse than
a
evil. That's true, Chiron. Yeah, yeah,
Hitler
Mussolini
was
was
a
the worst.
drug addict. It drove him into madness. And whether he knew about what was going on in the Holocaust or not, I think he probably did.
Oh,
But there
sure.
isn't any direct evidence that he did. Um, he still did nothing to stop any of that sort of rhetoric
No,
that would have led and did lead to multiple acts of violence
that's
against
right.
innocent people who did nothing but exist.
No,
So there's no way to get away from it. But you can look at, I mean, it was 100 years ago, guys. Like, it was 90 years ago that Hitler rose to power. 88, what is it, 92, something like that, years ago that Hitler rose to power. I think we could probably depersonalize the guy a bit, and let's look at him as an actual person.
yeah,
Because when you do, as evil as he was still one of the most successful politicians of all time.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
all
yeah.
time.
Yeah, no, he was a true believer, and they rode his coattails, and things became progressively worse. The first few years of Hitler, it was wonderful, right? What he
Yeah.
was doing. If you go back and look at it, uh, he was rebuilding infrastructure. He was trying to reclaim the homeland, getting people, allowing them to come home. Because keep in mind, the Germans were being horribly oppressed, right?
Yes.
The first few years, and then it just got out of control. He got out of control. We know he had cognitive decline,
Yep.
incredible levels of it because of the medication his doctor was putting on him and the men around him. There were some real evil sons of bitches in there.
Yeah.
Now, and once again, I don't take anything away from Adolf. I mean, he was involved in it even from the beginning with his brown coats. They did bad things, right?
Yes.
So it's not like he's not guilty. But people misunderstand Hitler quite a bit. And
Yep.
the simple fact of the matter is, anytime there's a topic that you're not allowed to talk about, you should look at it because
Yeah.
that's where the truth lies. And you're not allowed to say anything about Hitler other than he's the most evil human that's ever existed until Trump.
Yes. When
Um,
he's not even top five. He's not
no,
even in the
he's
top
not.
five.
He's not. He's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah,
Like, bad dude, no question.
yeah.
No one's sitting here saying he was a virtuous man,
No,
but he's not top five.
no,
Most
no.
evil men. Not even close. He's
You
not
want
even
to
in that conversation.
Yeah, go pay attention to Goebbels or
Yeah.
Himmler. I mean, go look
Yeah.
at those dudes and understand the face of evil, dude. And
I,
and of course that brings us into the greater conversation of these people throwing the way around the word Nazi all the time. It's like, wow, you've never read a book. You really don't understand what a Nazi is. I mean,
no,
that
they
you're
don't
talking.
get it.
No, the SS. Everybody was terrified of them. All the Germans were terrified of them. That wasn't just the Westerners they were fighting. Everybody was terrified of the SS, right?
Yeah.
Because they were evil. That was bad, dude. I mean, talk about something just running straight out of control, right?
Yep.
However, my the point that I was really trying to make is, um, which is way off topic, but that's our screw it. That's all right. Is the fact that what exactly about I've given some theories here before, but what really was it about Trump that caused them to panic and pull that trigger? I think 2 decades ahead of time. And was it Trump? Was it something else? It seems like it was Trump. I just don't understand how the
It's what
Trump's
Trump
not that
represents.
threatening. He's not really, but
Um,
what he's saying and doing isn't that threatening. Not
well, he is
really.
the people who want to create a actual genuine world government because he's a
He does. That's
nationalist,
true.
and I'm obviously a nationalist as well. I always have been. I've never understood how anybody could think internationalism is superior. But that being said, he's a nationalist, and that's what they're scared of. And there's some valid reason to be scared of it. Like, we don't want another world war. I don't think anybody wants another world war. That will be hell like we can't even describe. World War II was hell like we can't describe. World War One was hell. You can't describe it because it's just so unbelievable. World War III will be infinitely worse, like a genuine World War III, not like the Cold War. I'm talking, it's gonna the evil stuff they've come up with to kill each other, to
Yeah,
kill
it's
people
pretty
with.
bad, dude. Yeah, it's
It'll
pretty
be
bad.
it'll be like it'll be hell on earth, literally hell on earth.
Yep.
So they think they're avoiding that by being internationalists. If they come, everybody comes together under one umbrella. We don't have to have this big fuck off war where billions of people die and da 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 da. Okay, that's an altruistic goal. The problem is they're evil. They're evil people who do evil things in the name of evil.
Yeah.
So even if their goal is good and righteous at the end, the means have to matter when you're talking about the lives of people. And I still think that Trump's correct that the nation he said these words when he was campaigning. The nation state is still the best a mechanism we've concocted to preserve liberty, and he's correct. And that is what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of Trump. Trump's 70 something years old. He'll be dead in 10 years. He isn't a threat to them, but the people are. They're
Yeah.
scared of the people.
Yeah, no, they are. You're right, but I just feel I think they overreacted, to be honest with you.
They did.
But there's a lot in the chat. I'm not going to cover all of it because it's a lot, and I do need to start the show. However, I will start the conversation about the chat with this. Dave says, Major Hofstadler, which keep in mind there was a role of Jewish cast, which I thought was ironic, and they thought so too. What is
Yep.
this man doing here? I didn't do that well. That wasn't well. That wasn't perfect. Major Hofstadter was freaking awesome in Oregon Zero, by the way. But I think it's a good point coming in here because Grimlock also mentions Aleister Crowley was considered more evil than Hitler when Hitler was alive. This is true.
Yeah.
Very, very much true. And the bigger thing here with the bankers, you guys are saying, well, a lot of American big banks were giving money to the Germans. They were giving to both sides. Let's be fair, they always do, but giving oil and all kind of stuff. Well, keep in mind, this is something that no one wants to talk about, I guess. Before Pearl Harbor, which we know was a red flag, we know this now, right? Before that, America was pro Germany, and
Yep.
people don't seem to understand or remember this. And you're like, how could America be pro Germany? Well, because
We're
Germany was
Germans.
fighting to bring its homeland back together from all its oppression. They after World War One, they chopped Germany into pieces, and they cut all the edges off, and all those people were in France or Poland or other places, and
Or
they were
America.
being horribly treated, right?
Yep.
And from an American point of view, they're fighting for their freedom. They're fighting for their homeland. That's an American thing to do, right? And
Yes.
the Americans are strong. So when you go watch these stupid Hollywood movies, people were not thinking that way. You know who really,
No.
really, really, really wasn't thinking that way? Hollywood at that
No.
time. They were very pro Germany.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
the something like 30% of the country at the time was German, I think it was, or something like some
sure.
really high percentage, because or German descent. I'm German descent. Most
Yeah.
of the Midwest is German descent or Polish,
Well, I'm
and
Norwegian,
or
so
well
I
the
mean, close
well the
enough.
white ones anyway. So I think there was there is still ties to that. Like technically I'm Austrian, but I would love to go to Austria. I would love to be where my people come from.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's just something still real, like in our it's innate in
Well,
us,
it's
in people,
heritage, right?
right?
It's heritage.
Yeah, it's our heritage.
And another thing, you mentioned there was a Nazi party in the U.S. too. Yes, there was. And do keep in mind a big chunk of I can't remember the guy's name offhand that created fascism, the Italian guy. However, when the Germans got a hold of it, they kind of tuned it to their own way. They added a lot of political strategy in there. And where did they get that from? America. There's
Yeah.
quite a bit of American government thinking and political play in German fascism, right? But anyway,
Yes.
we could. This is a very long conversation. We could really dive deeply into and get in a lot of trouble. I'm sure we're in trouble already. However, the point it being for me is I'm still a bit bewildered why they pulled that trigger too early. And if they did pull the trigger too early, which it seems quite clear they did, will this save us from it? I don't think so. But I think we're kind of doomed, no matter what you say. I mean, think about this. Right now in the United States of America, you have all kind of craziness going on in the government. I mean, they're saying outrageous things, pure Marxism, pure Marxism.
Hmm.
This isn't like, oh, these liberals have gone a little lefty. No, it's pure Marxism, right in your face on a daily basis, being spoken from the pulpit of Washington, right? Is what you're seeing
Yep.
right now. And they are to show you the point of every American knows the United Nations is corrupt bullshit. We all know this. And from people in other countries, I don't know if you know it or not, but that's the truth. The UN is a corrupt business platform, right? And what are they doing? They're bringing in UN representatives to do a in-depth investigation into the racist corruption of America. And you know who some of the groups that are this body that they're bringing in? Russia,
Yep.
China. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what they're doing right now, right? And and of course, if you look at what the United Nations is doing, they are the front vanguard. They are the vanguard of this new world order. And of course, they're pushing for their what here 2030. What is it? 2031? Is that the date? 2031, I think. Where they have the big reset thing, and you were kind of making a mention with Schwab with that because he's behind that. He's one of the big people behind that. But anyway, and of course, they actually have signs up you can find in Europe, produced and put up with the United Nations logo right on it. This is how little they care what you think. You will own nothing and be happy. Wow, dude.
Um, I don't. Here's the only comment I'll make on this is these people are not gods, no matter how much they try to be. They can bleed, and they will.
Well, yeah, that possibly. But keep in mind, under Obama, even though
Hmm.
he was making lots of noise against Russia, right? Because you need an enemy, got to have Russia, right? Got to have that enemy, right? Can't be
Yeah.
China. That's our business partners, right? Even though they're evil as shit, the CCP. We got to have an enemy. So they were always, Russia, Russia, Russia. But keep in mind that it was Obama that was trying real, real hard while he was stockpiling ridiculous amounts of ammunition. Keep this in mind. The UN was going to send in peacekeeping forces in case America had some kind of revolutionary resistance. And who were these
Uh-huh.
peacekeepers the UN were going to send in? Russians, because they
Yeah.
knew the Russians would have no trouble killing American civilians.
Here's the problem, though. Vladimir Putin has had a long-standing policy of supporting any open revolt, violent revolution in America.
Yeah,
He
no,
said it
and that's why
multiple
it didn't
times in
happen.
public. Yeah,
And
he
which
he
and
he wouldn't give the order. Now you're right. Russian soldiers have no problem killing American civilians, either with Chinese. But as long as Putin's there, it's not going to happen.
yeah, and that's why the rhetoric against Putin, particularly, and Russia
Yes,
overall, has become heavier and heavier and heavier because he wouldn't play ball, right?
correct.
But understand that's Obama. Obama was doing that. He was pushing really hard for that. That's Obama, right? So Trump came in and he put a nail in that, and that's probably part of what pissed him off. But you see here, what we have from the Biden administration is a full court panicked press to get back to where Obama was trying to do, and even beyond it. It's a
Not going to happen.
pure panic that's going on
It
right
is.
now. Yeah.
That's how you know they're losing. When they're winning, they're quiet. They just do things. Things just happen, nice and slow, nice and quiet, no muss, no fuss.
Yeah,
When they're losing, they're flailing around with the
oh yeah.
nonsense.
The thing that gets me though, Thunder, and this is everybody in the chat. And of course, we're just a bunch of friends here having a chat, and we talk with amongst each other. We're a small group, but we're not. Our ideas aren't, because a lot of people are catching on to what's going on with all
Yeah,
this nonsense. And the interesting thing for me is they're so panicked with it, and they're using these strong arm tactics. And of course, you had mentioned Schwab in the Discord, and understand that the New World Order and all the things going on. He's the one that proposed quite a while back that they use a worldwide pandemic to gain back control,
yeah,
right? And
and they failed.
yeah, and they did. Yes and no, because there are plenty of places that just bowed their head, right?
Well, yeah,
Um,
but those places were probably always going to anyway. The reality is their enemy is not the majority of the world. The majority of the world will shut up and do what they're told. They do all the time. Their enemy is the middle class, working class, mostly white Americans and some Cubans. There's a couple blacks in there too, but by and large, it's white Americans who simply will not, like me, who will not. I'm not taking their vaccine. They're going to have to literally force me, hold me down, and inject it into me. That's the only way it's happening. So they can
well,
keep playing their game, and they can keep playing, and they can keep playing. They're just radicalizing more and more people. People said 2020, that was the year they didn't do anything. Okay, all right,
all right.
okay.
Well,
But we've seen this before. We've been here before in the West. This isn't new. It's just our turn. We had about 60 years of splendor, especially in America, after World War II. That all ended because of all different reasons, but that all ended. And now we have an aggressive enemy with world domination as their goal. And I just don't. Maybe we'll lose. Maybe they'll get what they want, but they won't get it for long because it's impossible. Marxism doesn't work.
yeah.
We know it doesn't work. It's not. It's not even. It's because it's real simple. The law of the laws of the universe are not suggestions. They are laws, and for every action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. There is no escaping the equation. That's what they've been trying to do. That's what CERN and all that's about. They're trying to break the equation. It cannot be broken. It is a law written in the cosmos by whatever deity you want to believe in, or just because for it to exist, that's how it is. Whatever you personally believe, I don't care. The point is, it cannot be broken. Nothing we have found can break that law. The law of equality, of equal force, is law. It cannot be broken. And that's the same in human interactions too. We're not outside of the laws of nature. We
No, well,
we will engage in them at all times. At
yeah.
all
Well,
times. Every decision that is made by anybody, top to bottom, will have repercussions we cannot possibly prevent.
they keep telling you we're outside the bounds of biology, but the
Uh-huh.
actual truth is biology doesn't give a shit what you think.
No. Nature does not give
But
one
they're
white
trying.
shit.
They're trying hard, and understand all these policies with all this transgender stuff. That's completely what that is, and biology doesn't give a shit. Just like all this absolutely out of control feminism, because it's not feminism anyway. It's just misandry is what it is. Once again, ladies, biology doesn't give a shit what you think, right?
No. It doesn't.
And the thing I'm curious about the vaccine, I understand what it is. I get that. I do understand all of that. However, aside from the Democrats hastily pushed out Johnson & Johnson one, which had trouble and it seems to be discontinued now.
Mhm.
Besides that, but the Pfizer one, we're seeing no troubles with it at all. We're seeing
Except it doesn't work.
well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does nothing. That's possible. But it's not hurting anyone. We have plenty. We have millions, tens and hundreds of millions of people that have been gotten the shot, and it hasn't caused any harm at all. I guess I understand standing against the vaccine on principle. I get that, but the vaccine itself isn't going to hurt you.
No, it
You know,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I understand the
Doesn't matter
principle
if
of it. I get
it
that.
doesn't matter who it will or will not hurt. I'm not going to inject myself with chemicals for a disease I have a 99.9% chance of surviving.
Yeah,
That's obscene. That's absurd. That would be like telling me I have to wear a retard helmet because I have a less than 1% chance of falling down and hitting my head on the pavement. I am more likely to die from a fall at 36 years old than I am from COVID.
yeah. I think I'm not gonna have an option here, dude. Me personally,
Yeah.
because it looks like the Japanese are, which is shocking to me, but it looks like they might be going the passport route here. And I cannot not be able to move. I have to move. I'm on planes a lot. I'm traveling around the country a lot. I have to be able to move around, or I'm screwed, right? So I
Yeah.
might be forced into having to get that shot, actually. Yeah, but I do know on the back end of it that it's not a big deal. It's just really a waste of time. It's all a political thing. I get that. But I think I have no choice in the matter. So, uh, oh well. But anyway, interesting conversation. What do the young kids say today? A convo? That seems like a very odd miniaturization, a shortening of a word, a convo. Sounds like it should be something else. That's what the young kids say, right? A convo, conversation. No, you haven't heard that? I've heard that.
No, I have. Sorry, I was reading the chat. Let's see.
The interesting thing about this conversation, though, we're starting to see a lot of people wake up, though. A lot of people have buyer's remorse with Biden. The
Hmm.
black community is absolutely waking up, and boy, that could be good just for them because they desperately, that community. Well, the urban black community desperately needs to have a revolution amongst themselves. A collab is what I would know, Bullet. Yeah, but they say convo these days. These young kids. People don't talk much about the Latino community, but I kind of think that there's a duality with the Latino community, and I think they're well aware. And I think you will see a lot more Latinos jump on that bandwagon than you would expect. But the other thing that's going on with them is La Raza, because they literally want to breed out and take over the United States. They literally want to do this, just
Yes.
like the Muslims are trying to breed out Europeans. I mean, that's their intention, right? So don't misunderstand that. Not every Latino you see is part of La Raza, but a lot of them are. And the thing about it, what is they won't tell you. They're far more strategic than some of the other dumbass groups in America. Keep this in mind, that La Raza's intention is to breed you out. That is their plan,
Yeah.
right? So the Latino community in America is a mixed bag. But and the Asians don't really give a shit. They just want to make money off of you. So whatever. But that's the general breakdown of America, right? Right there.
Mhm.
And the other communities, the Indian community, the Muslim community, all of that, they're much smaller, and their impact is not going to be very big. But it comes down to the whites, the blacks, the Latinos. It's going to be
Yes.
whatever happens in America is going to happen there.
Well, the reality of it is when we talk about voting and whatever, reality of it is that nobody wants to talk about, but everybody already knows is true. Is blacks are irrelevant. It's a white and Latino argument at this point.
Uh,
Whichever way the Latinos
unless they
go
get their
is
shit
the
together,
way. Well, they're not going to though.
they're trying
whichever way
though.
the whichever way the Latinos go is the way that the elections are going to go from now on. Because whites are about 50-50 split, left and right, and
Yeah, that's true.
Latinos are like 60-40, somewhere in that area,
Yeah, yeah,
ballparking it. So if more of them, like if we can get Hispanic numbers like we get in Florida everywhere, like for the right wing in elections, which I don't think there's political solutions are going to solve these problems. But let's say we can still somehow salvage the system.
yeah,
If you can get Hispanics to vote like they do in Florida nationwide, well, that's it. The Democrat Party's done. That'd be it. That'd be ball game, easy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna convert more white people away from there. I think the major divide in this country is among the white race. I think we're
No, that's
staunch
true.
and we're
That
not
is true.
moving.
That is true.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the Hispanics, however, and I don't mean this condescendingly, I think a lot of them are just confused. And I don't mean that. I'm trying not to be condescending when I say that, because I think if conservatives actually went and talked to them, like, they're people, instead of pretending they don't exist for some reason,
Yeah, it's
they would convert mass
well
numbers of
because
them
they are
to
conservative
their
by
side.
nature. They are Catholic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
But then again, the Democratic Party in America has does a very good job of conning your ass. And they've done it forever. And I
Yeah.
understand your point, and ultimately, in the greater scheme of things, you're correct. But my heart is, does kind of rest with the black community in America. I kind of rooting for them,
Me too.
and because I understand, unlike most people these days, for some reason, I understand the difference between compassion and sympathy,
Hmm.
tolerance and acceptance. These things are quite different. The left clearly doesn't understand these things whatsoever. So I reserve my sympathy. I reserve my acceptance. But when
What is
compassion is
Chiron
called for,
talking about over here?
who?
Chiron. He's telling me to educate myself and not let liberals make me not want to live. I think he thinks I'm you. I
What?
think he's got us twisted, because I'm the one saying we're going to win. But Chester's over here saying, no, they're going to win. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I'm not. I am an optimist. You know this. I'm not
No,
pessimistic
I
at
don't
all.
think we're going to. I don't think we're going to win. I think we're winning. I genuinely do. I know a lot of people look around like, oh, they stole the election, blah blah blah. Blah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
but
just means they're losing. If they have to do all that, they're losing.
yeah,
That's
but
all that means.
you're looking at things short term, and you might be right. I'm looking at
No,
things in the
I'm
long
not.
term.
I
Uh,
think we're in for a massive demographic bomb that the world is not ready for. The baby boomers of all races all over the world are dying. They're going bye bye. And once they go bye bye, the world economy is going to shatter. Whose money are you gonna? Where are you gonna put your money? Who's gonna recover from that the best? Is it gonna be white conservatives or a bunch of psychopathic
that's right, Bullet.
Marxists?
Yeah.
It's gonna be the white conservatives and the other conservative, people with sanity of the other races too. That's who's gonna come out of that on top. The world economy is going to explode in the next 5 years. It's inevitable. It's unstoppable at this point.
Yeah.
You can't shut the whole world's economy down for a year and think there's no consequences to that. There's going to be consequences. And like I said, I'm putting my money on the American people, the people who have the American spirit, who the American dream is very live and well within, that we will again save the damn world from itself.
Yeah.
Because it always falls to those people. It always falls to the people that society hates. The ones who desperately cling to the principles of freedom, who desperately demand their own sovereignty. That's who society always hates, because it's so much easier to just conform.
Yeah.
So much easier just to go along. Well, the people who will refuse are the only ones who will save this species from a lifetime of hell
Yeah.
if they get what they want. That's just the
true.
truth.
And we are sitting on the edge of extreme inflation right now. Of course, it doesn't make sense when you understand that it's a fiat currency. They're constantly printing money. What does it matter? But understand that.
No, Kairos, I am not going to take the vaccine. I don't give two white hot fucking shits about your statistics. It will not happen. The fact that you feel the need to present to me a whole lot of statistics like you're going to somehow sway my mindset is the main reason I won't do it. Just because, fuck you, that's why.
Yeah.
And anybody else who thinks that way, same thing to them. I'm not doing it. There's absolutely no reason for me to do it. I am not in any way in danger from this disease. Nobody I know is in any danger from this disease, and the ones who might have been have already either had it or are vaccinated against it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me to do it. There's no reason anybody younger than me should do it, other than people are afraid. So no, I won't be doing it.
Yeah,
Period.
but you understand my situation, right?
I do, and it sucks.
And it does.
But you're also older too, so I don't think you need it. You obviously probably don't. You're a healthy guy, but I don't begrudge anybody over the age of 40 who goes and gets it, because it starts to exponentially get more and more dangerous. COVID does after 40.
It's true.
So, but anybody under 40 who's completely, the only thing my problem is I'm fat. That's it. But I'm not even that fat anymore. I've lost almost 50 pounds in 4 months.
That's nice.
Everything else is perfect. Everything else, my blood pressure, my blood sugar, everything's perfect. I am in no danger of anything. My heart's perfect. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no,
the only issue I would have would be weight, and I'm working on that. That'll be this time next year. I'll be in damn good shape.
yeah, no, we understand that we're not going to get into a long conversation about COVID. You do as you like. I just don't think I'll have an option. But in regards to the money situation, though, me personally, I'm definitely moving into metals and land. I'm actually have
Mhm.
kind of started the ball rolling. I'm looking at. I don't think I'm looking at. I think I'm going to build an apartment complex. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Well, no, it's not what I wanted to do. It's not what I wanted to do.
But it's smart,
It is smart.
uh, especially with their big push to take away people's homes. Smart. Get out in front of it.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I can't begrudge anybody at getting out in front of these psychopaths' plans. They're going to try. I'm not. Don't sit here and think that I'm saying, oh, they're not even going to try. We've got them on the run. No, no, no. They're still at all the top levels of all the power. Absolutely. But the reality is, all their propaganda would not be necessary if there was no hope.
Yeah. Well, I do want to cover some of the stories we had planned today, so let's
Let's do
let's
it.
kind of move over to that. However, my thing with the vaccine is this, guys. Get it or don't. It doesn't really
Correct.
matter. If you're, but keep in mind that the Democrats are doing everything they can to push the passport. This is being pushed all over the world, not just in America. And if that happens, it's kind of like, are you going to deny it just are you going to cut your nose off to spite your face? That old expression, right? So you
Yep.
got to keep that in mind, and some people will. But get it or don't. I don't think it matters one way or the other, to be honest with you.
I'm a
Anyway,
stubborn bastard.
and that's fine. I mean, if you're in a position where it doesn't matter, then do as you like, right? It's just that I don't like the fact that I'm being forced. Understand that. But it is what it is, and if I'm anything if not practical, you know.
Hmm.
Anyway, let's actually get into the news today. And I
Let's
do
see what we
have some
got here.
interesting things to talk about. Now, this right here, I thought I'd bring up because I knew I was going to talk about Germans. This is a German company, Haba.
Hubba.
Haba comes from it's a Bavarian company created during the 30s, interestingly enough. But Haba here, I think I might have talked about it before. I probably have. However, this is an interesting company, I think, because they make extremely awesome quality. In America, we have Hasbro, and Hasbro was, probably, I don't really know. This might be not correct, but I feel like Hasbro is the largest toy company in the world. But Hasbro makes crap. I mean, let's be fair. A lot of the stuff they
Let's
make
see.
is crap, right? There's a few things they make that are good, but a lot of it is plastic crap, and it's made as cheap as possible. Haba, on the other hand, is European version of Hasbro, and Haba, on the other hand, makes incredible quality goods. Now, of course, it is like I said, it's in Bavaria, and therefore it's German, so we know how they are. Uh,
It
but
is
um,
Hasbro.
huh?
It is Hasbro. I just looked it up. We're 7.21 billion
Yeah, I
revenues.
figured it was. We all know that Hasbro makes plastic crap in general. There are a few exceptions, of course. But Haba makes incredible quality things. And Haba is being sold in America, but I don't hear a lot of Americans talking about Haba. And if you have kids, like little kids, or you're a teacher, or you run like a daycare, or you do like a after school program or anything like that. If you're involved with kids in any way at all, Haba stuff is the way to go. It's much better than Hasbro stuff. It's much more clever. It's better for the kid's brain, and the quality is ridiculous. And they make all kind of stuff, all kind of themes, and they're really good kid stuff. This is a kid company. Don't misunderstand it. There are a few games here that are fine for adults, and I own them, and they're great fun. But mainly, they're a kid company. But if you're involved with children whatsoever, if you have children, look into Haba. This is Haba USA I'm looking at right here. So they have a company. You can go buy it, and I strongly suggest it because anything from Haba is going to be fun for kids. Some things are better than others. Rhino Hero is an awesome game. Kids absolutely go crazy over it. And it's basically kind of Tetris with cards, is what it is. Not Tetris. Jenga. It's Jenga with cards. But they got a lot of good games here. It's a lot of fun, and it's really good quality, which is important, especially if you got kids. It doesn't really matter as long as you can get 5, 10 years. I say 5 years really out of a kid's product, you're good to go. Right? If you ever have kids, you
Mm,
understand you're buying shoes every 3 months. But if you are involved with teaching in any way, having the occasional game day or game class is really, really good. It makes the kids happy and it's constructive and they're having fun and learning and they don't know it. That's the trick as a teacher. The kids are being educated, but they don't know it. That's the trick. That's what you're aiming for as a teacher. Because if kids think you're just sitting there educating them, they will zone out completely,
yeah.
right? Especially American kids. American kids have a level of entitlement that is hard to comprehend, right? I mean, the level of
Mm,
entitlement in America is ridiculous. One of the go kind of getting back into the conversation we were just having here a little bit. Um, I watch well, not a lot, but every now and then I'll sit and I'll watch what's going on in the modern urban landscape of America. And I'll look at all these things and these conversations they're having. And there's a lot of idiots that have opinions. Oh, well, everyone's entitled one, I guess. But they're so shallow and so entitled in their ideas that it is completely outrageous. And it's such chaos that you get like these MRAs and these MGTOWs that we've talked about before. And we might well have some over here with us today. I don't know. And I understand why it's happened. I get it. I do get it. But the conversations that being had are so simplistic and so, to be fair, stupid that it shocks my mind the level of entitlement on all sides. I mean, just dealing with MRAs in general. The fact that you're going to break women down to their sexual value and that's all a female is offering to you, dude, you've lost the plot, right? And
yeah.
on the other side, it's no better. The entitlement of Western females is it's so mind-boggling. It's alien to me because it seems to me that both sides of this young urban western thinking have become so clinical and so black and white, which is not reality, that it's all about sexual value and women and their body counts and all these kind of things. It's so inane on all sides
Yep.
that it quite shocks me, you know. And it's certainly not good. It's not good, dude. And the point I'm making with this is that a lot of the nonsense that's going on is happening at the school level, and what you're seeing is a lot of people starting to homeschool their children at an extreme rate, right? And I don't blame them. You should. And if you are homeschooling, definitely think about Haba because they're very fun games and they're very educational. And if a lot of these homeschoolers are starting to move into homeschooling communities, right, where a lot of families in the neighborhood and in the same area are getting together and homeschooling the kids together, which is a good idea. That's how schools started in the first place, by the way. Anyway, if you're doing that, you're kind of pooling your money to kind of get everything done. Think about bringing this in as well because these are really, really good, much better than Hasbro. Not that I'm saying that we should give money to a German company over an American company. Well, no, no, that's what it is. What I'm saying. Yeah, do that. So
Yeah. Why not?
yeah. Anyway, yeah, but that topic in regards to the inanity of the young urban knight is wow, dude. I mean, Jesus Christ. Have you been I mean, you're a bit older, you're married, so you're not part of that. But have
No,
you paid
I've
attention at all?
I've been an old man my whole life. Just
Well, that's fine, but I mean, are you paying attention at all to it's like, wow, dude, it's breathtaking.
yep. Yeah. Do you remember when COVID first started? Like
Sure.
first started to really hit the West.
Yeah,
Remember how all that shit went away for about 2 months, month and a half?
sure.
Yeah, reality check's coming. I'm telling you, it's not even a doomer thing for me because I know for a fact that good people don't need governance to create good things.
Mhm.
That's what makes them good people. So when all of this stuff comes crashing in, and it's gonna, the good people will be the ones to save humanity from becoming some form of barbarians. And these people that you're talking about, and I use that term as loosely as the definition provides, they will either get in line or they will get gone because nature's a bitch. You think mankind's tough? Wait till Mama Nature has her way with you, because she don't play games.
Well,
She's playing for keeps.
things always fall back into a more conservative, loving
Yep.
arms for a short period. It always happens, yeah. And my Israeli friend says all toys are plastic crap except Lego. That's fantastic. Hell, but Haba started as a fine wooden toy company. And they have not lost that. All their products, all the little pieces and stuff, are all made of wood. It's it's
Yeah,
it's a it's a it's a beautiful product.
that's cool.
And I'm not I don't work for Haba, but I'm just telling you, if you got kids, you should be buying
Here's
Haba
my
over
question:
Hasbro. Yeah,
whatever happened to like the tin toys? Remember tin toys?
sure.
Oh man, those are built to last. You can still find some. Those were cool. I think
Yeah,
we need a tin toy revolution. We need to bring back the metal toys.
yeah.
Get rid of this plastic garbage. First of all, plastic's bad for the environment. So why not just make them out of metal?
Well,
There's all kinds of junk metal out there in the world. Why can't we just use it to make toys?
Well, you remember how with the women's movement in the '60s, after the war, and how the women we want equal pay, and they got it, but in actuality, they didn't get any increase in pay at all. They just brought men's
No.
salaries
Yeah.
down. You remember that?
Yeah, and they got
Yeah,
taxed.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah, yeah.
dummies.
They got taxed, and now you have a family. You have to, both mom and dad have to work. Yeah, so victory,
Yeah.
yay!
You won?
You
I
won.
don't
You won. Good on you. Congratulations. However, it's the same thing happened with that's what happened with tin. Plastic came in. What was that in the '40s? They developed plastic, I think.
Yep.
They had Bakelite and stuff like that before, but I think it was in the '40s during the war that plastic came around. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I probably am. However, when plastic came in, it's so
Yep.
cheap that it makes tin is which is a cheap product, but comparatively, tin is a luxury item now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. But it's the same.
Bake Bakelite's awesome. Have you ever had any Bakelite, like Bakelite pots or pans or Bakelite handled pans?
I
Stuff's
have.
awesome.
Yeah, I actually have a radio, an old
Nice.
timey transistor radio.
We've
That's
regressed as a species. I think the peak of our what's the word I'm looking for? Not functional, but like durable technology was like the 50s and 60s. Because that shit just lasts
I would say
forever.
20s and 30s personally, but I get your point.
Yeah, he probably could, but it just lasts forever. Like the best toaster ever made, the best domestic toaster ever made. It's not even up for debate. Is a Sunbeam. It's called the my brain just blanked on it, but it's the one that pulls itself down. You drop the bread in, and it pulls it down. It's the best toaster ever made. It's not even close. It's not even for debate when it comes to domestic. It's a domestic toaster that uses domestic toaster levels of power, but operates like a commercial toaster. You can use it all day long, and as long as there's nothing wrong with it, you'll always get perfect toast every time. Bop, 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 bop. For years, decades, people have used it. You can find them online. For a while, people discovered them, and they were buying them for $300-400 on the internet, right?
yeah.
Because The best toaster ever made. It's not even close. You never have to replace it. Lasts 60 years.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist anymore.
No.
There's basically nothing you can buy that'll last that long. That's a functional piece of equipment.
Oh no, and you can compare the same item, from the early 20th century to the same item being made in the late 20th century, and there's no comparison.
Yep.
But yeah, they used to make things much more solidly, and everything functioned well. But you got to keep in mind that in general, coming into the 20th century, we lived in basically a free market.
Hmm.
And everything was very stable. Woodrow Wilson, around that time, things started going into this new world order economic, and it's just been downhill ever since. Our technology has certainly improved. But then again, if you think about it, I I don't own one, but I'm sure a lot of you guys own these cell phones, these smartphones. And how much are you paying for those now?
Oh my God. Well, here we pay an arm and a leg because there's ridiculous astronomical markup. But what we should be paying for them is like $5 because they're
Yeah,
only, it
they're very
costs
cheap.
about $1 to make one. And yet somehow Americans have been convinced that we have to spend 600 on them.
Yeah,
Not even
well,
kidding. They're six,
or
seven
a
hundred, eight
thousand
thousand
dollars.
bucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
$1,000. Yeah, and of course, if you've noticed, the iPhone, for as an example, has every new model goes up astronomically, and why? There's no reason for it. It actually should be going down in price, shouldn't it? That's how things usually work, but they're not. And they
Yep.
don't. And one generation and next, you're not getting very much of an improvement, are you? But you're paying more.
No.
And this is just runaway greed by these corporations, and it's been going on since the 60s. That was when it really started into high gear. Well, like I said, with the feminist movement and them getting their their win. The companies are making way more money today, percentage wise, than they ever did. And this isn't going to stop. They're going to keep
Nope.
pushing it because it's all about fashion and keeping up with the Joneses and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's move on here. I do get a bunch of stories. There's a couple of them I can go
Let's do
through
it.
pretty quickly, but I thought this was interesting.
Harrison Harrison Ford's stunt double seen in facial motion trackers on set of Indiana Jones 5, hitting at heavy use of CGI replacement technology. Because of course,
Of
he's like
course,
80 years old. The
yeah.
hell?
But now, what this also tells me though is that he's not playing a big part in the movie. Yeah.
Uh, Probably not, but maybe not. It just depends. They could have his CGI stunt double that's playing the big part and he just voices it over. But no, you're probably. I think you're. Yeah, he is 80 years old. He's 79. I
Yeah.
think you are probably correct. And I think anybody who doesn't understand what's about to happen with this Indiana Jones movie, it's gonna be Masters of the Universe all over again, where it's a bait and switch. They're going to lie to you a lot, and then they're going to laugh at you because you're saying that they're lying to you and mock you, and then they're going to, right about the time they drop it, reveal, oh yeah, we were lying to you the whole time. Yeah, here's what's really going to happen. And yeah, I don't. First of all, Harrison Ford has no business doing action movies at 80, for Christ's sake. Uh, and nobody wants to watch Indiana Jones's torch be passed. I know there's some people who think they want that, and then the Solo movie exists.
Yeah. No, and we already had
Yeah,
that. India,
yeah,
Indiana Jones 4 was trying to pass the torch to Shia LaBeouf. The
yep,
problem is Shia LaBeouf literally blew up, a human that blew up, and
yes, just
yeah,
exploded.
just exploded because what a train wreck that guy is. I mean, Jesus Christ, the train wrecks. What I had a kind of a sad moment the other day. I was just doing some work, and I usually put things in the background to listen to, and I put on Demi Moore's Seventh Sign. It's an okay movie. It's not great, but it's okay. And It's got some good actors in there. But the whole time it was on, um, I just was reminded of how much that woman blew up her life.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, what a sad thing. Because there was a point where she was a diligent actress, diligent, and she just blew herself up, dude. But we see it happen quite a bit. It is what it is. Anyway, moving on. My opinion is, yeah. Oh, who gives a shit? All right, now this
Yep.
one's funny. This I thought was hilarious. Talking about Hasbro.
Wha- Hasbro reportedly orders no hoods allowed for GI Joe figure of Cobra Commander. So just no Cobra Commander then? We're just not going to do that character. He
No,
gets
they
put
just
in
got
the
to do him
dustbin
in
of history.
the helmet version instead of the hood version.
The hood version's way cooler, way more menacing.
It is more
The helmet
menacing.
version's ridiculous.
And I'm curious. Do you think the chat appreciates how in my early rants I always kind of tie everything I have coming later in? Do you think they notice?
I don't think they do. I
Yeah,
don't think they
well,
do.
the interesting thing about this is there is zero comment from Hasbro. There is no comment. This headline is simply telling you that there's an order from Hasbro that no hoods allowed. That's it. We have no comment. We don't know why. Well, we know why, but nothing. And keep in mind, this is in regards to their ultimate toy line. So these things are going to actually probably be much better quality. There he is kicking the puppy. He's evil. See, that's the thing. And of course, here's a look at them. You see, he's got the helmet on, but the hood one is much more menacing. You're 100% right. However, and I think they're good looking action figures. Actually, I like them. They're not, they're well done. Let's speculate for half a second exactly why he's not allowed to wear a hood. Go.
Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. Oh, Adi finished.
It's actually like who said it over here? I think it was Joe. Yeah, Joe Maroney said Project Veritas revealed that they have been pushing CRT principles into their toys, and that's something they're going to continue to do going forward. So that's what it is. It's because hoods are apparently all hoods are apparently now Ku Klux Klan hoods, even though his hood has nothing to do with a Klan hood. Doesn't even look like a Klan hood. It's the wrong color. It's the wrong shape. It's just a hood that covers his face.
And keep in mind that the whole world has been mandated into wearing masks here for a year and a half.
Okay? Yeah.
But yeah, it's KKK is the reason why. And the funny thing about it is, because they keep going on, they won't shut up about the KKK. You do realize that the KKK worldwide has less than 5,000 members.
Yeah, and most of those are probably feds. Let's be honest.
Maybe
they're feds trying to catch one from before they do something, or as the FBI has been wont to do, push somebody over the edge so they go do something stupid and then they bust them.
Yeah, and the KKK, to be honest, these days, they're a bunch of nerdy kid boys basically, and they're trying to be the gentler, kinder KKK anyway these days. A lot of times they're promoting racial interaction, which is interesting. But it's dumb. Of course, it's dumb. This is way better version of Cobra Commander. Shocking information, Thundero. He's a bad guy. He's supposed to be a bad guy. So even if it is a KKK reference, great. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
Exactly.
He's kicking a puppy. Look at it.
You're not supposed to like him.
No, you're not.
Not supposed to.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. Try to catch up a little bit. This right here sparks a whole. I don't care about the article, and the article doesn't really do anything about it, but this sparks a conversation. Go ahead.
Actor Andy Garcia shows his support for Cuba, expressing that 62 years of tyranny and repression must end. Amen.
Amen.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly and unequivocally, and it must end in America too. We can't continue down this path any longer.
But damn the full court press to make what's happening in Cuba look like anything other than what it is.
Oh, of course, because communists will never take accountability for their nonsense. All communist regimes end in one of two ways: a violent revolution to overthrow it, or just collapse. Just utter collapse.
Would you like it?
That's where we're going, I think. I think that's where we're going with Cuba. I hope the U.S. stays the f*** out of it. We got no business. I know they're right off our coast. I get that. But we got no business. I'm done with international wars. We got no business.
Yeah,
None.
let them work it out. But here's an interesting little statistic. You know how if you come from Mexico or Central America or something like that, they are not only happy to put you in, they're ignoring any conversation about it. They're taking people, putting them on planes, and just transplanting them all across America without telling the governments, which is illegal, by the way. I mean,
Yep,
states in America have sovereignty. Keep that in mind. However, they on the other hand, they're deporting Cubans.
of course. Because
Interesting,
Cubans
huh?
vote the wrong way.
Talk about two-faced, right?
Yeah, they're evil.
Yeah, they
Simple as
are.
that.
They are.
No,
You
Cubans vote the wrong way. That's the only reason. There's no other reason. It's not all this stuff where they talk about, oh, we need more people of color. They don't give a shit about any of that. They do care about political power, though. That's what they care about,
Yeah, that's
and
the
they
whole
know
point.
that Cubans and whites are the ones who are the big resistance to their nonsense, by and large, as far as like a Cuban immigrants and whatnot, as far as like an aggregate group. So that's who they attack. That's why the attacks continuously ramp up and will continue to ramp up. It's why they attack Russia, because Putin won't always play ball. He sometimes does, but he doesn't always.
Yeah, but they
And they
also
don't
need
like
an
that.
enemy, though. They need
Yeah,
one.
well, he's also a good boogeyman. He
Yeah.
looks like a bad guy. He acts like a bad guy. He's got a lot of bravado and
He
swagger.
rides bears bare-chested.
He also has I think, well, last I knew, pretty sure Russia has the largest stockpile of nuclear armament. I think it's
Yeah,
bigger than America's,
and
but
and their Satan missiles are just ridiculous.
yeah,
But I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me in really big trouble. I mean, serious trouble. I probably shouldn't say it. I mean, now I'm going to say
oh,
it. I'm curious what you think, dude. I've always had this feeling that Putin was gay.
Putin,
Yeah.
he does walk funny.
Well, and he displays in a very gay way a lot.
It
I've
could be.
always wondered. It doesn't matter, of course, but
I don't.
I've
I
always
don't
felt
think
that.
so though, unless he's like, I don't know, because he's very staunchly anti-gay.
He is,
Uh,
but
so he could be.
methinks he
It's
protests too
possible.
much.
Exactly. That's very possible.
I don't
And
know. He's
maybe he
probably not.
understands that
You
the
know,
power of the Orthodox Church in Russia is pretty
that
significant.
is true.
So
And he
he
does have
plays
a
along
family.
with
He
it.
keeps them out of the press completely, and good on him for that.
Yeah.
And he's probably not. I just always had that feeling out of him for some reason. He just kind of always struck me that way.
Chester, are you telling me you're sexually attracted to Vladimir Putin? Is that
No,
what just
no,
happened?
no, no. Well, I get the same. I get similar, but more pussy ass versions of that feeling off of Justin Trudeau,
Yeah.
right?
Oh well, Justin Trudeau is a Cuban. I mean, are we all going to pretend that he's not Castro's son because he's Castro's son? He looks just like the man.
That's true.
It's ridiculous. Like if he's not his son, that is an unbelievable coincidence that needs to be studied in depth by some seriously intelligent mathematicians,
Uh,
because he looks, I mean, 1 to 1 to the guy. He looks like he was a clone of him. In fact,
maybe he is. Gotta spread that communism somehow. Speaking of speaking of Canada, oh damn it, I had an idea and I just it left my head. Oh, that's all right. We'll move on. It'll come back to me. All right. Here we go.
eventually. Taskmaster Taskmaster actor, that's a hard sentence, claims her character is as strong and maybe even stronger than the male version of Taskmaster.
Of course you are, baby. Of course you are, baby. Yeah.
Listen, sweetie, I'm not trying to get in your pants so I don't have to lie to you. No, just
No.
not even close.
No.
You're not even within 10% of that man.
Yeah.
That character. That
I mean-
character is a threat to the whole Avengers squad, in fact. And you are barely a threat to anything, really.
Yeah. And now let's keep in mind that there are female comic book characters who are stronger than Taskmaster, of course.
Absolutely.
But Taskmaster was a man that did have an ability to kind of see your weak point type of thing. He did have that. But basically, he's all about, training and human accomplishment. You are a cyborg that was being remotely controlled by a dude. Let me say that again. You are a cyborg that was being remotely controlled by a dude. And the whole time we see you on screen, except for the very end of the movie where they take your helmet on, there's a man, a stunt man that's doing it. So what are you on about, girl?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, it's. I, look, I think the objective of these sorts of statements. I don't know. Do these people not have publicists anymore? Like, I don't understand how these things are even allowed to be said
Well,
by
you see
famous,
how
like things
entitled they
like
are. Of
this.
course, they don't have publicists. They can do that
It's
themselves.
so utterly stupid. Like, it's not even enough to get angry about. It's not.
No,
You'd
it's
say,
just
well, it's
stupid.
outrage marketing. No, it's not. She's just dumb.
She's just a dumb
She's,
girl. Yeah.
there's no grand plan here. She's just an idiot.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of this stupidity going on, of course. But one of the great little, millennials trying to work out their shit videos I saw was this street reporter guy, and he was going around asking the simple question to people: Do you think men and women are are physically equal? Right, that's the question, right? And of course, in this regard, no, of course we're not. But that's the question he was asking. And there was a girl, a young girl, and she said, "Oh yeah, we're definitely equal." Physically, he said, "Oh yeah, we're exactly the same." And he says, "Well, yeah, that's not true." And she started crying. Uh, that was like the perfect encapsulation of the modern woke think. And this is just another tragic victim of it, is what this is. And they're all showing the vulvas these days. So yeah,
Hmm.
I guess we have to
Like,
appreciate
like
that.
I said, Chester, the laws of this universe will not be ignored forever.
No,
It's gonna
and
happen within the next 10 years. I will. I'm literally betting my life on it. It's why I'm
well,
getting in such good shape.
the thing that's interesting to me is, why does it matter? I mean, men and women both bring things to the table.
Yep.
We are a symbiotic organism. We need each other. We work really well together, much better than apart. So what's the problem? You have your strengths. Men have theirs. Why do you need to be better at everything? Right? You have your strengths. Revel in them.
And the constant need for male validation
Yes,
from
that's just
females.
women. I mean, women in general. I do apologize any women watching, but women need constant validation. Even my wife, who is a very frugal and conservative woman, would agree with that without question.
Yep.
Because even just the other day, she made a comment that proves that. Because one of the things, when I'm watching these shows, it's talking about the young urbanite and just their struggles. Uh, and there's this. I like one of the things I watch is ABBA and Preach. They're not horribly sophisticated, but they're street smart, and their take on things. I don't agree with all of it, but their take is usually okay, right? It's a thought out opinion anyway, right? They demonstrate a lot of the modern dating problems. Is really what they deal with. And one of the things that they show that they watch is this Jubilee thing. I don't really know what it is, but there's this show that they do where it's phone swap first date, right? And you get
Mm.
together, and the first thing they do is they record you looking at your potential date's phone, right, and seeing what's on it. And consistently, every girl has thousands of pictures and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of pictures on their phone of themselves, their selfies. And I asked my wife, I was like, why do girls do that? Why are they constantly taking so many pictures of themselves? And she said, well, because so they can put it online and people can look at it and people therefore they can acknowledge her existence. I was like, oh, okay. Because I don't get it. I don't take any pictures of my. You ever took a picture of yourself before?
Not unless I'm planning specifically to send it to somebody. I don't just sit around taking them. Not usually. No.
I don't know that I've ever taken a picture of myself. But whatever. It is interesting. And oh, you poor little baby. But poor baby doll. I feel. I feel no sympathy for you whatsoever. I'm moving on here. Now this one is hilarious, dude. I love this one. It's connected.
Black Widow writer confirms Tony Stark cameo was cut. Director says decision was made to keep male Avengers out of their movie.
Yeah, yeah. Can't have the male. Same thing they did with WandaVision, right? And having a Tony Stark cameo, from what I understand, they actually shot it. They actually
Here, back.
have a Tony Stark cameo for the movie, because this movie was made years ago, right? And yeah, that might have helped your movie a little bit, maybe. He is quite beloved. But and he seems to be pushing back too. Robert Downey Jr. He seems to be fed up with Hollywood bullshit, and he's always been kind of pushed back. He's always been a guy who defends the actors, and he's always been that kind of dude, and that's cool. I appreciate that. But I think it seems like he's sick of their shit too, right? And that's a moneymaker right there. That is a moneymaker. You see that damn Doolittle movie? That was one of the worst movies ever made. It still made a lot of money. Did you see that Doolittle movie? My God, dude. I seem to have lost Thundero. Oh, maybe he'll be back. Let's just make sure everything else is working, though. Let me check here. So, yeah, everything's coming through here, no problem. And so I just simply lost Thundero. Okay, so hopefully he'll be back. And no, he's still there. He's just not talking. But that's all right. We'll move on here because I do want to kind of catch up. And I do have a couple interesting, and this is the last innocuous one to talk about. So here we go. Space Jam. Now, I just want to talk about this just quickly offhand because LeBron James is getting a lot of heat on him for good reason. I mean, he says the dumbest thing. He's not a smart guy. He might well be an amazing basketball player, and it seems like he is. I mean, he's in that top 4, top 5 conversation of greatest basketball players of all time, right? I mean, you got Magic Johnson, you got Larry Bird, you got Michael Jordan, and you have this Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. Now, I know there are other basketball players that are really good, but when they're talking about the greatest of all time, that those dudes come up all the time, right? So I'm sure he's an amazing basketball player. However, he's not smart. He says the dumbest shit all the time, and he is an absolute communist China shill. He 100%. And so with that all said, there's a lot of negative baggage hanging on this Space Jam. However, it seems like it's a really, really dull, boring, dumb movie anyway. We know that there's things like the Lola Bunny thing that make sure it can't have the male gaze and all that, whatever. We've had the director and other people come out and chastise the fans, of course, as you do, right? But this thing seems to be an absolute total train wreck. And the interesting thing is, it's not just from the consumer. The actual critics are bashing on this thing. So that's interesting. And I don't know why.
Okay.
Because they usually will, 100% back these kind of things. But do you know why, Thunder? Why? Because I understand why the normal person doesn't like a crap movie. I get that. But the critics are shills. And they will always support anything that's woke, and this certainly seems to have some of that. Why in the hell are the critics bashing this hard? I mean, hard, dude. Do you know?
I have no idea. I haven't read any of the reviews. I have absolutely no interest in the movie. But if I had to guess, there's no woke shit in it, and that's really all it takes. It's gotten to the point now where it's not so much that there's stuff that they actually are against in movies, right? Like conservative values or whatever.
Right.
It's if their stuff isn't constantly preached to them, they give it terrible scores. Like a decent example of that. I don't know if it applies to this movie, but I know it applies to that one. Remember that Shaft remake that came out a few years ago? I don't remember. It was like 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it wasn't a great movie, but it
No.
wasn't leftist bullshit, blacks are weak narrative either.
No.
So because it wasn't that, they shit all over it. The critics did. They literally said that this is playing to some stereotypes, but their language they use.
Yeah, sure.
Basically, all it means is, oh, they showed black people as being competent. Oh well, we can't be having that without a white bad guy. And
That's true.
that's really what it was. And I think that's probably what this is. It's just a family movie. And I don't think, from what I've seen of it and what I've heard, I haven't heard anybody say it has
Kids
some
movie.
big political agenda. Yeah, it's just a kids movie. And LeBron James he wanted to make a kids movie, so he made Space Jam.
Yeah. Well, and
Pretty much
fair
that's
enough.
it.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough. And that's all well and good. But this movie is getting absolutely trashed, and sounds like it's really not a good flick. The only positive comments I've seen about this anywhere is that little kids might like it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, right?
I don't know because I'm not around young kids anymore. But do little kids care about LeBron James? I would
I
think
don't know.
LeBron James would be more like my age group,
Yeah.
right? 30s,
Same thing with
late
Michael
20s,
Jordan.
early 30s.
The original.
Yeah.
And that was actually my wife and I actually had that conversation because we remember we took our kids to the theater to see the original Space Jam, right? And it wasn't very good movie. It wasn't a very good movie at all. I
No.
mean, you could watch it, but it wasn't very good. It was very
was
corny
there.
and awkward. It was there. So I was like, well, this isn't a great movie. I kind of wonder why they remade it. I do prefer taking a movie that's a good idea that failed and try to remake that because that's where you can have success. But yeah, it's a weird choice, but whatever. I just thought I'd put it up because it's a lot of noise going around it. However, it is time. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Are we ready? We're joined by a Grimlock.
Oh,
What am I?
perfect.
What am I ready for?
TFT, baby. Here we go. We'll run that intro. All right, so we're going to get in a little bit of TFT today. Hi, Grimlock. Glad to have you here because I'm actually happy to have Grimlock here because he might have a slightly different opinion to me on this. However, here we go. Go ahead, Thundero.
Let's see what we got here. Hollywood celebrity John Leguizamo claims that. No, he didn't. That critical race theory is his whole reason for being.
Yeah, his whole reason for being. And I don't know what it is, Thundero. Every time Grimlock comes in, he's always sucking on a straw. What's up with that?
Or dragging a body. I'm not really sure which it is.
It captures every little thing. I don't know why.
Yeah, it does. But all right. So now we have literally witnessed the downfall of John Leguizamo here over the past 6 years, and it's sad as hell, dude. I mean, that's Chi-Chi right there, baby. Right? The thing is interesting with John is if you go back and watch it, he's done plenty of fun movies. He's not a bad actor at all. Matter of fact, he's had a couple of outstanding moments in movies. But if you go back and look at his stand-up, keep in mind he's a stand-up comedian at his heart, right? And if you go back and look at some of his stand-up, he was really good at it because a stand-up comedian who just gets up there and tells funny jokes is only going to go so far. You need to be able to tie in the emotional drama, sadness of things into your comedy at the same time. That's when you get power. That's when comedians go to a whole nother level. Professionalism, right? And if you go back and listen to his stand-up and where he's doing this funny little routine, but he also brings in the drama of his childhood and his father, who was quite abusive, and it's heartrending. Listen to his story, but it's a story. It's an American story. It's a real person's story, and he has completely forgotten who and what he is. Completely, because this guy is 100% on the woke train. 100%. So much so that the delusions and the lies that are constantly told by the left are his bread and butter now. they are his personage. And this statement does not surprise me at all, because that's what's happened to John Leguizamo. And I'm telling you, dude, that's sad. That's really sad. But I'm not here to talk about this sadness of what John Leguizamo has become. What I do want to talk about is critical race theory. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of lay out exactly what critical race theory is. I think we all kind of generally know, but do you really, really know? So let's take a look at it here, and I'm going to read this, and we'll understand exactly what critical race theory is. Okay, so here we
Yeah.
go. Critical race theory is fast becoming America's new institutional orthodoxy. It's true. Yet most Americans have never heard of it. And of those who have, many don't understand it. It's time for this to change. We need to know what it is so we can know how to fight it. True. In explaining critical race theory, it helps to begin with a brief history of Marxism. Interesting. Originally, the Marxist left built its political program on the theory of class conflict. Of course, the stress, the stress struggle, or the stress, meeting. Marx believed that the primary characteristics of industrial society was the imbalance of power between capitalism and workers. The solution to that imbalance, according to Marx, was revolution. The workers would eventually gain consciousness of their plight, seize the means of production, overthrow the capitalistic class, and usher in a new socialist society. All right, in a nutshell, right? During the 20th century, a number of regimes underwent Marxist style revolutions, and each ended in disaster. We know this. Socialist governments in the Soviet Union, China, Cambodia, Cuba, and elsewhere racked up a body count of nearly 100 million of their own people. And in truth, it's probably closer to 3 to 400 million, but we'll go with the conservative number. They are remembered for their gulags, show trials, executions, and mass starvation. In practice, Marxist ideas unleashed man's darkest brutalities. Of course, it did, because the left always eats itself, and at a
Hmm.
governmental level, that is disaster. By the mid 1960s, Marxist intellectuals in the West had begun to acknowledge these failures. They recoiled at revelations of Soviet atrocities and came to realize that workers' revolutions would never occur in Western Europe or the United States, where there were large middle classes and rapidly improving standards of living. Yeah, of course. Americans in particular had never developed the sense of class consciousness or class division. Most Americans believed in the American dream. That's right, which once again is not about making all the money. It's about the opportunity to improve yourself in future generations. Idiots don't understand this. The idea that they could transcend their origin through education, hard work, and good citizenship. But rather than abandoning their leftist political project, Marxist scholars in the West simply adapted their revolutionary theory to the social and racial unrest of the 1960s. Abandoning Marx's economic dialectic of capitalism and workers, they substituted race for class and sought to create a revolutionary coalition of dispossessed, based on racial and ethnic categories. Fortunately, the early proponents of this revolution coalition in the U.S. lost out in the 60s to the civil rights movement. It's true. Which sought instead the fulfillment of American promise of freedom and equality under the law. In the end, it ended up screwing us harder, but the intention was good. Americans preferred the idea of improving their country to that of overthrowing it. The vision of Martin Luther King Jr., President Johnson's pursuit of the Great Society, and the restoration of law and order promised by President Nixon in his 1968 campaign defined the post 1960s American political consensus. But the radical left has proved resilient and enduring, which is where critical race theory comes in. So, what is it? Critical race theory is an academic discipline formulated in the 1990s built on the intellectual framework of identity based Marxism, which we all know, regulated for many years to universities and obscure academic journals over the past decade. It has increasingly become the default ideology in our public institutions. It has been injected into government agencies, public school systems, teacher training programs, and corporate human resources departments in the form of diversity training programs, human resources modules, public policies frameworks, and school curricula. There is a series of euphemisms deployed by its supporters to describe critical race theory, including equity, and social justice, diversity and inclusion, and cultural responsive teaching. We've heard all these terms many, many times. Critical race theorists, masters of language constructions, I wouldn't use that word, dude. Realize that neo-Marxists would be a hard sell, of course. Equity, on the other hand, sounds non-threatening and it sounds threatening as shit to me, and is easily confused with the American principle of equality. Of course, understand equality is the equality of opportunity. Equity is the equality of outcome. But the distinction is vast and important. Indeed, equality, the principle proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence, defended in the Civil War, and codified into law with the 14th and 15th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, is explicitly rejected by critical race theories. We know that's true. To them, equality represents mere non-discrimination and provides camouflage for white supremacy, patriarchy, and obsession. Now, you guys are recognizing all these words that we hear these all the time now, right? We've been hearing them quite a while. This is
Oh yeah,
not a new thing. This has been a movement for decades and decades, guys. This isn't a new thing. This has been in
correct.
the
Yep.
works, right? In contrast to equality, equity, as defined and promoted by critical race theorists, is little more than the reformulated Marxism. That's true. In the name of equity, UCL law professor and critical race theorist Cheryl Harris has proposed suspending private property rights, seizing land and wealth, and redistributing them along racial lines. They've been saying that for decades. Critical race guru Ibram X Kendi, which is this is his new name. He got rid of his slave name. He did like Cassius Clay did. He got rid of his slave name. He took his Muslim name. This guy's an idiot. If you go read his book, he's not a smart guy, but he's being promoted as the smartest person in America. So much so that the military is forcing their soldiers to read it. This is
that's working out really well for them.
Yeah, well, no, it is, right? But this Kendi guy, that book, which is an absolute ridiculous. I read it because of all the noise going on about it. It's a short book, and it's inane. It's stupid. I literally could write a better book than that. And who the fuck am I, right? But whatever. He's there. They say guru, but it's basically that is the roadmap that they're using, right? With this critical race theory stuff. Who directs the Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University, which is funny because he's openly and admittedly a racist. He's not even shy to say that he is a racist. But yet he's involved in the anti-racist research at Boston University. But I went to university in Boston, by the way, guys, and Providence in Boston, and Boston University, shit, it's absolute shit.
Yeah. Boston shit. There's very little redeeming qualities left in that city.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
I mean, I
Everybody
was there
knows
30
it.
years ago, but Boston University was idiot people because the thing about Boston is you got the Brown guys from Providence and the satellites up in Boston with that. You got the Harvard guys, you got the MIT guys, you got the conservatory guys. So you have some pretty smart people centered in Boston, right? Pretty smart people, legitimately smart. And they're surrounded by like Boston College, Boston University, because Boston is possibly one of the biggest university towns in the world, right? Anyway, has proposed the creation of a federal department of anti-racism. Ooh, that's interesting. That sounds nice, doesn't it, Grimlock? Shouldn't we have a department of anti-racism, don't you think?
Doesn't it defeat the whole purpose of having a human resources to fucking begin with?
They like redundancy, I guess. Let's go with that.
I agree. I think we should open more fictional departments. Let's start the department of fairy magic.
Yeah, let's do that. Dude, I want fairy magic.
Yeah, everybody wants fairy magic. Who doesn't? Fairy magic sounds awesome. You can fly. Hello? Who doesn't want to fly?
That's right. And the only thing you have to worry about is cold iron, and we don't even know what that is.
Everybody except for the fat bitches because they'd have to use 2 clouds to fly instead of 1.
Yeah, we would need a lot of fairy magic.
talking about weird fat ladies. I've met plenty of fat ladies in my life who are wonderful humans, but I've met some real pieces of work as well. And I in the '90s, or the late '90s, I did have a group of friends who I played D&D with, and these guys were a bit younger than me. And I was working, I was a professional at that time. But anyway, they used to go to these. I don't know. I guess you call it a rave, a goth rave. Is that a thing?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
It might have been years ago.
Well, and it was younger people like in their 20s to 30, to 30, and they were so desperate to display their sexuality. You had all kind of silly things going on, and I actually enjoyed it. It gave me quite a chuckle. But anyway, I remember this one girl particularly who stood out to me, and she was a actual fat girl. She wasn't just chubby; she was just straight up fat. And which is fine. And she was in the ultra uber goth outfit, of course, which she was literally spilling out of, if you can imagine. And she walked around the whole time with a dildo, a big, gigantic black dildo that I can't believe she could ever possibly use. Well, who knows, I guess. But she walked around with it all the time. She always had it in her hand, this big, gigantic black dildo. And
The joke's on you because really, it's the dildo is just the casing when she unsheaths her spoon when she goes to eat.
maybe. However, how desperate do you have to be, right? How desperate do you have to be? But these are the kind of idiots that have been created in this environment. Because one thing that was interesting about all those people at those few raves I went to, I guess they're called raves, they're all college people, all of them. There were no
Yeah.
blue collar people there. There weren't any people, just white collar but never went to college. No, they were all college. Every one of them. So desperate, so confused. However, let me continue here,
Of
because
course, no blue collar. They're too busy actually working.
that's true. But I didn't go to a lot of them, but I went to a few of them, and I actually found them very entertaining because these people were so. It was an interesting observation of psychology, is what it was. Anyway, let me continue. This department would be independent of, i.e., unaccountable to, the elected branches of government, perfect, and would have the power to nullify, veto, or abolish any law at any level of government and curtail the speech of political. So you want to create the, what do they call that in the Soviet Union? You always had one of those Communist Party members there to allow tell you if you could do it or not. What do they call that? Damn it, my brain's gone.
Oh, mine too.
But
Let's
you know what I
just
mean.
say you want to create basically an absolute monarchy, because
yeah.
of course this will have a leader, and that leader will be beyond reproach.
Of course.
So it'll be in everything but name a monarchy, an absolute monarchy, because monarchies, by and large, historically, were pretty good to live under, but absolute monarchies were terrible by almost all occasions.
This is why all Marxist attempts turn into dictatorships, tyrannies, because it's inevitable. The only way to make so any kind of Marxist concept work would be to have an AI government authority. I mean, literally, you would have to have an AI that's impartial, making all the decisions with zero greed and all that kind of stuff. And even then, it would probably suck. But
yeah, it would still fail.
Yeah, they probably would. But I mean, that's the only way you could even think about it really attempting. Anyway, so ultimate power to abolish anything and curtail the speech of political leaders and others who are deemed insufficiently anti-racist. So, and of course, this is important because we're seeing exactly this right now. You're being told what you can say. If you say the wrong thing on any of these social media, what happens? You get blocked, you get banned, right? You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to have free speech. They're literally shutting people down. You have a president as delusional and demented as he is, if that's a word. However, he's sitting up there and he's telling you the greatest threat to America is white supremacy, but he never defines what white supremacy is. Of course, you know what he means: those who didn't vote for me. So if you voted for Trump, you are the greatest threat to America. You are a white supremacist, even though plenty of non-whites voted for Trump. That's what's going on, right in your face, right? Are you getting it? This thing they've been working on for decades and decades and decades, and honestly, it's been going on a century. Let's be fair, right? Because if you don't think that the Soviets didn't send people over to America immediately to try to disrupt it in every other Western countries, you're not paying attention, right? And they had a
Mhm.
lot of success with it. And this has been going on a long time. And this whole theory, you're seeing it come to fruition right now because I've already said in this article many things that you're hearing on a daily basis now, right? Go ahead.
I was agreeing with you.
Okay. One practical result of the creation of such a department would be the overthrow of capitalism, since, according to Kendi, in order to truly be anti-racist, you also have to truly be anti-capitalist. Why? Why? In other words, identity is the means and the Marxism is the end. This is assuming that there is no non-white person in the world that doesn't have money. Now, Grimlock, I don't think you're a whitey, are you?
Half a week.
Okay. Do you have any money at all, or are you completely impoverished?
I'm not impoverished. Like what? Like, am I out like in rags looking for clean water?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably an average American, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fat, so I'm doing all right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. But I mean, of course, this is a ridiculous statement. Equity-based form of government would mean the end not only of private property, but also of individual rights, equity under the law, federalism, and freedom of speech. These would be replaced by race-based redistributions of wealth, group-based rights, active discrimination, and omnipotent bureaucratic authority.
Yeah. The reason being that you can't be a capitalist and one of these is because anti-racism is literally just Marxism. There's no difference between it except in vernacular, except in semantics.
Sure.
Instead of talking about, the bourgeois and the proletariat, he's talking about races. That's it.
Yeah.
They just change some of the words around.
Sure.
Every single thing he talks about, every single thing he wants is Soviet-style Bolshevik Marxism. That's all it is.
Yep. And everybody who's done some form of Marxism has just changed a little bit of the words or the enemy. They've all done that, sure.
And I'm going to go one step further. I don't think you should be an American and validate racism as a concept, because I don't think it exists. I think it's a communist fiction. All this stuff you're talking about here, all these buzzwords they've come up with that they use to attack their political opponents that don't really mean anything, like you said. What does white supremacy mean? It doesn't mean it. It just means they voted the way I don't like. That's all that means. That's all it means. That's all racism means. It was designed by Trotsky and the communists to attack their political opponents in the 1920s, I think, or early 1900s, whatever it was. That is all it was designed to do. That's all it means. That's all it'll ever mean. The fact that nobody can even agree what the definition of it is means it doesn't have a definition, because it's not an empirical term, because it doesn't exist. It's not an ism. It's a fiction.
However, culturalism and tribalism are real.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% real. I've experienced them myself. I've engaged them myself. Everybody has to some degree. 100%. But racism, that whole concept, we can cut. If it's just like with justice, okay? You either have justice or you don't. There is no middle ground between what is justice and what is not. So what I mean by that is you don't need an adjective to define justice. Social justice is not justice. When you put an adjective in front of justice, you take away justice.
That's right.
Because justice doesn't need a qualifier. It's justice.
Like a simple...
Same with hatred. You don't need to call it racial hatred or blah, blah. It doesn't matter why somebody has hatred in their heart. The hatred's the problem, not the motivation.
I hate eggplant.
I'm with you on that. I don't. You know what I hate? You know what vegetable I hate? Fucking lettuce. Get that shit out of here. Get it out of here.
It's not a real vegetable, man. Yeah, but no, of course, it is culturalism. For instance, you have someone like, as annoying as he is, Kanye West, is of a similar culture to me, whereas Cardi B is not.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
So
Correct.
just,
And that's
'cause everyone's
why
all about the black now for some reason.
you know
But
that
whatever.
guy, that Daryl Davis guy. That he went and he would talk to Klan members and he got them to leave the stupid cringy ass Klan. The only reason that's effective is because they aren't actually what they claim that they were.
That's right.
They don't hate him because of his skin color. If they did, they wouldn't even engage with him. Ever.
Yeah, you
It's
got to
not
go
a
back
question.
100 years to find real Klan anyway, dude.
Yeah. But my point is people don't actually despise people based on race. They despise them based on stereotypes or whatever you want to call it, that they think of that race, or because people like that person in some way victimize people like them or themselves in the past. It has nothing to do with skin, with race. Nothing.
Yeah.
And the fact that we keep this is a problem with everybody in the West. This term has been inundated into our brains so much that we think it's real. It's not. It's literally a Marxist buzzword that they use to smear their political opponents. That's all it's ever been, and that's why they still use it today, because it works.
Yeah. True. All right, let me continue with this. I'm gonna go back 3 words because I have to say it again. Omnipotent bureaucratic authority. Historically, the accusations of anti-Americanism has been overused, but in this case, it's not a matter of interpretation, as Grimlock slurps on his Slim Fast. Critical race theory prescribes.
I don't even have a cup.
Well, that's.
It's just.
I don't know if I'm ready for that conversation, Grimlock.
It is just my Bluetooth, man.
Yeah, that's okay. Critical race theory prescribes a revolutionary program that would overturn the principles of the Declaration and destroy the remaining structure of the Constitution. Once again, critical race theory prescribes a revolutionary program that would overturn the principles of the Declaration of Independence, if you're not aware, and destroy the remaining structure of the Constitution. Well, that's lofty goals there, don't you think?
It's a little much.
A little much. How it works. What does critical race theory look like in practice? Last year, I authored a series of reports focused on critical race theory in the federal government. The FBI was holding workshops on intersectionality theory. The Department of Homeland Security was telling white employees they were committing micro inequities and had been socialized into oppressor roles. Oh, interesting. The Treasury Department held a training session telling staff members that virtually all white people contribute to racism. Of course they do. And that they must convert everyone in the federal government to the ideology of anti-racism. And the Sandia National Laboratories, which designs America's nuclear arsenal, sent white male executives to a 3-day re-education camp where they were told that white male culture was analog to the KKK, white supremacists, and mass killing. Well, were all those white males Democrats? Okay. The executives were then forced to renounce their white male privilege and write letters of apology to fictitious women and people of color. The people who make our nuclear weapons were forced to do this. This year, I produced another series of reports focused on critical race theory in education. In Cupertino, California, elementary school forced first graders to deconstruct their racial and sexual identities, elementary schoolers, and rank themselves according to their power and privilege. Well, a smart kid would say, I'm number one. In Springfield, Missouri, a middle school forced teachers to locate themselves on an oppression matrix based on the idea that straight, white, English-speaking Christian males are members of the oppressor class and must atone for their privilege and convert white supremacy. In Philadelphia, an elementary school, forced fifth graders to celebrate black communism and simulate a black power rally to free 1960s radical Angela Davis, a freaking murderer, from prison, where she had once been held on charges of murder. And in Seattle, the school district told white teachers that they are guilty of spirit murder against black children and must bankrupt their privilege in acknowledgement of their thieved inheritance. I would have used a different word there. Okay, that's this dire. It's quite dire. I'm just one investigative journalist, but I've developed a database of more than 1,000 of these stories. Damn, dude. When I say that critical race theory is becoming the operating ideology of our public institutions, it is not an exaggeration. From the universities to bureaucracies to K through 12 school systems, critical race theory has permeated the collective intelligence and decision-making process of the American government with no signs of slowing down. This is a revolutionary change. When originally established, these government institutions were presented as neutral, technocratic, and oriented toward broadly held perceptions of the public good, right? Today, under the increasing sway of critical race theory and related ideologies, they are being turned against the American people. This isn't limited to the permanent bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., but is true as well of institutions in the states, even in red states, and it is spreading to county public health departments, small Midwestern school districts, and more. This ideology will not stop until it has devoured all of our institutions. Now, normally, guys, I don't go and read things out like this. I know I don't, but I thought that it's fairly well written and it's poignant. This should be a wake up call. I think you guys are all aware. But anybody who's listening who's not awoke, not actually truly woke, this better damn well wake you up, because it's absurd what they're doing. It is
Yep.
nonsensical, but it's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's evil, and this is what evil does. And the problem is there's only two outcomes for this, and I keep saying this, and I hope people understand. It's blood or death. You can't stop communism with words.
Yeah.
If you could, it would have been stopped a long. If hundreds of millions of dead bodies can't stop it, why do you think you can talk them out of it?
And you're absolutely right. And of course, Thundero has been kind of preaching the harsher truth here for quite a while. I always do tend to take the more middle ground, and I tend to be optimistic but cautious. But I am a libertarian. What do you want? But the truth of the matter is there is truth to what's being said by many people who are being called. I'm sure Thundero falls in the category of racist white supremacist. I'm sure he does.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure I do.
Right. Yeah.
Even though I am
If that
certainly
means
more.
I'm anti these people, then I'll be whatever they call me. Call me whatever you want, as long as I'm not them.
Yeah.
Because these people are pure, unadulterated, unrepentant, irredeemable evil.
Yeah.
The thing that they're pushing for will kill millions of people. Not might, not could, will.
It always does. It always does.
Every time.
Yeah. And the rest of it, I'm not going to read the whole article. I read what I wanted to read. However, it does go on here and it's talking about why. Because Americans are afraid. And we know this is true. Peer pressure and the threat of the government, authority. When when you're a young parent, particularly, and you're in there talking to a teacher and the principal and stuff like that, you're not too far removed from being in the classroom yourself, are you? Right? And this authority kind of pushes back on you quite easily, right? It's older parents that will stand up and kick him in the teeth, right? But we're having very few people push back. People are being indoctrinated. They're being by fear. This is how it always works. This is Marxism 101, people. You go back and read about the rise to the Bolsheviks. You read about the Worker Party and the Little Red Book of Mao. You look what happened in Cuba. You look what happened more recently in Venezuela. There's countless number of places you can go read about, and you'll see that it happened exactly like this every time and every place. It's exactly how it goes, and this is what has been shocking me the past few years, particularly. This has been going on a while, and I'm aware of it. But the past few years, they are not hiding anymore. They do not care that you know what they're doing or that they're full of shit. They are pushing this and they are running with it desperately. And I think they pulled their trigger too early. I think Thundero agrees with that. What do you think about that, Grimlike? You think they pulled the trigger too early?
Um, Considering that this has been their what near century long
200 years,
master
really.
plan.
But yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just look at this and I go, when did the human race become so pathetic?
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
Because I
fall
want to
into
use
it
one of their
occasionally.
I want to use one of their words to describe this nonsense that is born of Marxism. It is intersectional narcissism and envy.
Wow.
It is people. It is
Wow.
people who thought they deserved more than they earned and was envious of anybody else who actually was able to achieve it. And for years they found ways to separate people through this nonsense. Oh, this person has this because of capitalism. No, that person works 60 hours a week and you want to work 20. There's different levels in life. The guy who works 60 hours is gonna bring home more money than the guy who works 20. It's that fucking simple.
Yeah.
These are not complicated concepts.
No. Thundero, that was
A person
unexpectedly profound.
I don't know if that was a compliment or not.
Well, it is. But you hear it all the time. This is just the newest one. It's like, oh, this person is forever downtrodden because he's black. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s, and in Chester, you could probably verify this too, even though you're older. But if you looked on the TV every time you turned around, if they told you anything you wanted to do that was cool, you had to do it like a black person.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
You wanted to be the best.
Especially
You wanted to be the
80s and
best
90s.
dancer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You wanted to be the best dancer, had to be black. Wanted to be the best singer, had to be black. There wasn't no Gatorade commercial saying I want to be like Larry Johnson or Kiki Vandaway.
No. Kiki
All right.
Vandaway. Damn, dude. Damn.
Even today, you can back that up. Even today, I've seen videos all over YouTube of people shocked at how good Larry Bird was. They don't even
Bird
know
is
who the
probably
they
the
don't
best
even
basketball player of all time, dude.
they don't even know his name
Yeah.
because Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
And
no,
he
I'd say
was
it really comes down to Larry or Magic. It's one of those two.
So well known, and he's a black guy, and because the sport has become basically synonymous with black guys, which I think is strange because there's a whole lot of white dudes up in there. But regardless, you can find them on YouTube. Tons of videos of typically young black men who never even heard of Larry Bird.
Yeah.
They watch some of his clips. They look at his stats. And they're like, "What? Like this dude was insane."
Oh, Larry Bird's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's like it's like when I was a kid, I became a Raiders fan strictly because of the Bo-Nose commercials and Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
There was hundreds of great white players, but nobody was saying Chris Collinsworth knows in Nike commercials. Nobody was doing that.
No.
So, but to turn right around and say that these people that you have seen your entire life, is somebody like myself who's near 40 years old, telling me I'm never gonna amount to shit because of I'm predisposed to being less than because of my skin color. And yes, Is there racism? Absolutely. Has there been legislation that had been put in by evil people with evil intent to oppress certain people at one point in time? Yes, there has. But
Sure.
we also have this thing y'all talk about all the time called progress, where we was actually able to achieve things and move forward from those things.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, and like you mentioned LeBron James earlier, they're projecting by the end of the year or next year, this guy's going to be a billionaire.
Yep.
How the fuck can you be oppressed and you're a billionaire?
You oppressed billionaires.
Yeah.
That's something else.
Yep. No.
Oppressed billionaires
that'll
who
be-
came from frickin' Akron, Ohio. I could drive to the city he came from in like 2 hours. It's not a rich city. I mean, it's not a poor, super poor city, but it's not. You know, they ain't a bunch of billionaires living in Akron, Ohio. All right. So he came from, you know, I don't know what his financial status was before, but he wasn't rich. I know that. He was middle class at best. So don't give me this bullshit that he's oppressed. Who's oppressing him? He's a billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah.
LeBron James.
I mean,
Can I get some of that
James-
oppression? You can hit me every day once with a cane if I can be a billionaire. Thank you. Oppress the shit out of me for that kind of money.
LeBron James, since he
Jeez.
was 12 years old, has been coddled, pampered, told he was the great. Remember, they told this guy he was the greatest player in the NBA before he even made it into the NBA. If that's what oppression looks like, oppress me, massa. I've been one noted boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be completely fair though. He is a great basketball player. He is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, you know.
He's an unlikable spaz, but I mean,
Yeah, no,
he is a
he's
great
not.
player.
He's a very unlikable human, but he is a great basketball player. However, that article continues, and it talks about, you know, as we were saying, the causes of it, which is basically fear. Of course, we know fear generates everything humans do is based on fear. And then it talks about how do you push back, and he's taking more of a route in this article that I would. And more of we need to have a grassroots uprising. We need to push back politically, yada yada yada. Of course, the other option is Thundero's way. But either way, something needs to be done because they are on the fast track. They are pushing very hard, and the crap they're doing is unacceptable. Every day, we see things come out, and we're like, how could it be more outrageous than yesterday? But yet it is. And here's the thing, Grimlock and Thundero, you guys did dip your foot into the 80s. And I remember very clearly in the 80s because it was a decadent decade. It was, and but a lot of people back in those days were talking about you know the Christian theories and the Christians in particular that it was the end times. It couldn't get any worse. Boy, were they wrong.
They called that one.
There, my goodness, because it is to a point, Thundero, that a daily outrageousness has become banal.
Yes. It won't go on forever. Chester, you're a literal historian.
I am
We've been here before,
many times.
and every time we get here, it doesn't end well, but it does end. And it's going to end. I don't know. Maybe there'll be since we're so wealthy, we got all this technology. Maybe they'll be able to hold it together this time, and they'll survive the tidal wave that's coming. I just don't think that's going to happen.
No, because
And-
they can't help but eat themselves. They can't help
Exactly. There's still people. That's why I wasn't necessarily calling for violence when I said they still bleed. My point is they're people.
Yeah.
People have human nature. They can't escape it. That's what Marxism's always been about. Karl Marx's, when you actually look at it through a lens that's other than political, all of his rantings and ravings are him arguing with his own human nature. That's all it is. He's full of envy and he's full of hate and he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
That's it. And they can't get away from it. They can't escape it because nature's law will be obeyed. It doesn't care if it kills 10 million of us in the process, or 100, or 300, or 4. Doesn't matter to it. Nature don't give a shit.
No, it doesn't.
The law will be obeyed. And they
Right.
can fight it. They can resist it. They can run from it. They can hide from it. They can screech and scream and cry out to the mountains to obey them. They will not. Nature's law, I believe it's God's law, will be obeyed. And for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction.
That's right.
And this reaction is either going to be catastrophic collapse or blood. It's going to be death or blood. That's where it always goes. We've been here before. Similar forces aligned against the free peoples of the world, especially the Westerners. And every time one of two things happens. Either the people finally have enough of it and correct it with blood, or everything falls apart.
The barbarians at the gate.
Yes. There's no other alternative. I wish there were. I wish we could have talked them off this ledge decades ago. It started long before I was born. It started about the time, really in earnest, about the time Chester was born. Actually, even before him, but really started to go off about that time. We can't talk them away from it now. They're zealots. You cannot reason with the irrational. And they are completely irrational. They're insane for their God. And they will serve it no matter what, no matter how many people have to die. So the only solution in that situation is it's an existential threat. What do you do with existential threats? Do you just bow down to it, or do you fight it?
You deal with it. Yeah.
That's the reality that good people in the West and all over the world are starting to come to. They're starting to get it. Both sides now. I see it all over. Remember last year when you asked me, might have been 2 years ago actually, how popular do you think the idea of like a national divorce is? And I said, that's not very popular right now, but it's going to grow. Now it's everywhere. Yeah. Every side is talking about it.
Even
all over the country.
News is talking about it.
Mainstream news is talking about it. Mainstream podcasts talk about it, because it is the only way to avoid the worst war in the history of the world. If we don't do it, bad things will happen.
I do understand the inclination to bomb it into a glass parking lot and let God sort it the fuck out.
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
Yeah. Grimlock, would you like to add to the conversation?
Well, all of these, the philosophies that CRT is born from, like I said, is born of jealousy and is born of narcissism and envy. But one of, like Thundaro said, once the battle is brought, you have to remember, these are people who don't want to go out and compete. So they're not going to go out and fight should you bring the battle to them. They're going to try to find useful idiots.
As usual.
Which is... Yeah. So the thing that these people have always been allergic to is accountability.
Yep.
That's always been the case. It's always going to be the case. Because an accountable person at some point has a moment of self-awareness and go, well, if I don't have a nice house, it's because I haven't gone out and earned a nice house. It isn't because somebody's keeping me down. And look, I'm not saying it never happens. If there's somebody out there and they're actually being proactive in preventing you from getting something that you have worked for or deserve, hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Get other people to see
Democrats.
it and hold the motherfucker accountable. But to just sit here and just say that, these are in place to keep me from achieving, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, well,
because
it's not hard to believe. It's bullshit. Yeah.
So
Good
far,
good points for a slurper.
It's gotten to the point now where I think good people on all sides, even people who are not pro-violence, they're pacifists, whatever you want to call it, or they just don't like violence. They've seen it. They don't want to see it again. They're starting to understand that there's only one way to stop communists, and that's to put them in the ground. It's just the truth. I don't know why it scares people so much when people say the historical truth is the only places that have ever beaten them have literally beaten them into the ground. It's the only way to stop them.
Sure.
It's the only way. Now, many of those places went too far. Right? One of Hitler, speaking about Hitler, like we were earlier,
back fiercely, Thunder.
One of his biggest things he was obviously against was communists. He was very anti-communist. Yeah. The fascist movement was created as a response to communism, and that besides ethnic people or Jews or what have you, the Holocaust was really a purge of political dissidents. That was one of the main points of it, at least at first, right? They basically just got rid of them. Just see ya.
Yeah, sure.
And it was the communists that they were targeting. It wasn't it wasn't necessarily an ethnic thing. It just so happened that those ethnicities
Well,
were very much communists.
Initially.
Initially, yes. But again, everything, and I think even doing that's probably going too far. But everything else was that. My point is, the only way to beat these people, the only way to stop them, is to literally stop them, because they're not going to stop. We've seen it here. We've tried putting them in jail for being terrorists. We tried doing all these things, and what do? As soon as they get out, they go right back to it, because they can't stop. This is their literal whole world. Like Leguizamo said, it's his whole. What did he say? His whole world or something. Yes, they mean that. That's not just him saying ridiculous hyperbolic statements. He literally lives and breathes this stuff. It is his religion.
Whole reason.
It is 100%. Whole reason for being. Yes, it is 100% his religion. The only way to stop it is to stop the people. You cannot defeat these ideas because the people continue to spread them. It's just the reality of it. Some things cannot be reasoned. Some things must be destroyed. Simple as that. You don't reason with a rabid dog. You stop the rabid dog and then put it down.
That's right.
Simple as that.
And Leguizamo is definitely an example of La Raza. He has become indoctrinated. And if you look at his last stand-up he did a couple of years ago, you'll see the evidence of that. And one of the things that I find very funny about that particular demographic is that, because he's a proud mutt, but he's most proud of his Aztec heritage, whatever that is, right? The thing is about them owning the land, it's their land, and the damn white people, on and on and on and on. The interesting thing about that is the fact that they completely seem to misunderstand or forget, or absent-minded, I guess, that they conquered and raped out the population. That's why you exist.
Yep.
Did they somehow forget about this?
Yes.
Apparently.
Because literally, the Europeans who came in, particularly in the north, the Pilgrims, they were actual settlers that became colonizers. That's right. But the Spanish invasion was a military invasion. It was they were a military conquering. And the reason why the demographic and the thinking is so different between the America and Canada and Mexico and south of that is because of that. The Pilgrims were looking for a new place to escape oppression. That's what they were doing. Now it turned ugly there in the late 19th century, for damn sure. It went ugly. However, the initial intention was about freedom. Everything that happened in the islands, in Mexico and south, all of that was military invasion. And those soldiers literally raped out that population. Literally did.
Yep.
And this is what he is hanging his fucking hat on? Are you serious? And they don't even acknowledge it. The white man is a horrible invading conqueror, but they're native. He thinks he's a fucking native.
Well, again, going back to that narcissism. But also, it's kind of sad in the case of somebody like Leguizamo, because it's like, dude, so you're telling me the first 30 years of your career was because of CRT? The fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, dude. Now, go ahead.
Especially being a New York Latino that without your last name, you slick back your hair, you easily pass for white. Easy. So, I mean, come on, dude.
And technically, they are Caucasians anyway. However,
well, yeah, but I mean, if you slick back his hair and he didn't have his last name, you thought he served pasta somewhere and didn't know Spanish.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. No, it's true. So it's complete nonsense. And of course, I understand. For someone yells at me in the chat, we're all native. Of course, we are. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's fuck you, John Leguizamo.
Here's the real truth of it too, and this is the other problem they're going to run into, and they're already running into it, especially in young white men, including Hispanic white men. Some of them are glad it happened, and they should be, because they exist because of it, and their culture is better off because of it. I don't think there's anybody alive today who would want to live under the ancient Aztecs.
No, my
Nobody.
God, no. Even all the other ones
Nobody.
hated him. But then
So
again,
don't give me this. Oh, it was so oppressive, bitch. You were literally you literally committed human sacrifice in the. We don't even know,
all of
but
them did.
a
All
lot
of them
of
did.
people.
Yeah.
Literal pyramids of skulls. All right. So don't give me this nonsense about your virtue.
Yeah.
What actually happened was a superior group of people insofar as technologically and militarily, and let's just be honest, morally, came in, took them over, and they did what conquerors do pretty much every time. They took the women and had their way with them. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying that's what happens when you get conquered. And they created much better. Now, they're still pretty shitty, but they're way better than what they had societies.
You know,
America, the people who fled oppression in Europe to here, and at first were relatively amicable with the natives, quote unquote, the American Indians. Things got sour as they grew and expanded and whatnot, like always happens. Friction because of borders and da 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 da. And eventually things spiraled to the point where it was open warfare against one another for all differing reasons. It was never black and white. But my point is, who did better with this space than the Europeans?
Oh yeah, nobody.
Because the American Indians and even the Aztecs and stuff, they were migrants too. This wasn't their land either.
Especially North American ones. The actual, to get into anthropological genetics real quick, there's a shift going on, and I'm happy because it's starting to look like the Central South American natives might actually be the oldest humans. So go figure. Yep. The theory is now that originally the Asians didn't come into the Americas. The Americas came into Asia originally. What you're looking at North America is a post-apocalyptic situation because the face of North America has been completely remade. Understand this. It doesn't look anything like it did before the cataclysm. And those people, those natives there came in after the fact. So you have that's a different wave. But the interesting thing is the truth of your statement is terrifying because they were far more moral than the absolute brutal, murderous savages that were in Central and South America. However, the Spanish of that time were
still evil
themselves. They were bad, dude, and it's because it's military. We saw this with the Muslims too. The Muslims are a military religion, and that's why they're so brutal, right?
It's not fair to yourself or to anyone to judge history with your moral lens. You have way more information than they did about all sorts of things. It's just not fair. It's like if you were to judge, and obviously they're more intelligent than children, but the analogy still holds. It's like if you were to judge a child to somebody in their 30s. I would hope somebody in their 30s has way more wisdom than a child. Maybe not always, but I would hope so.
Have you seen the 30-year-olds these days?
Yeah, well, that's true. But my point is it's just not fair. It's not fair to judge somebody on what they couldn't and did not know. So I don't think I think when people say things like we were here, we have to compare them to what existed at the time. And what existed at the time, in this case, between these two groups of people, one was clearly worse than the other, comparatively.
Yeah, that's true.
And then another, compared to, if you were going to do the comparison, compared to us today, or compared to the Pilgrims and the founders eventually would become America, the Pilgrims were way better than the Spanish. I mean, come on, that's not even close.
And the thing is, if you want to disagree with me, and you would like to have a Mesoamerica history off with me, bring it, bitch.
Hey, Chester, you know how I've been saying all tonight that nature's law will be obeyed? I wonder what those people were doing pre the cataclysm, pre-diluvian, where nature said, all right, that's about enough of you, and just wiped them out.
Well, we don't know exactly why the cataclysm happened yet. We have a lot of theories. We know that there were cities great cities. So
Yep.
civilization was, we know there was at least one civilization that was all over the world because their building techniques are identical. So
Yep.
there was civilization, there were people. We don't know how high their technology was. We do know that their ability with water, sound, and stone was superior to ours. We know that. But we
Yes.
don't know how high it was. And there's no, it's only guessing really. However, I would imagine no matter what technological level they were certainly globe-trotting level, they were human. So
Yep.
I imagine it wasn't any different than any of the shit we get up to.
Exactly. Human nature is part of nature. It will be obeyed. And this is why communism fails. It's why capitalism works, because it takes into account human nature, and why communism fails, because it doesn't take into account human nature. Communists go online all the time and they cry because, well, the only reason communism fails is because capitalists keep screwing with it. Okay, so then it's too weak to defend itself. What? What do you mean? The only reason it fails is because some outside force messed with it. Then it sucks. It can't defend itself. Why would I want to adopt something that can't defend itself?
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous argument. That's not even an argument.
No, and they're talking about the giant dragon called Deathwing, which I understand is a fantasy reference. Center of the Earth destroyed it. However, one of the big theories is the fact that a lot of the ancient stories we have talk about another planet in the sky called Typhon, which was the great shiny one, the Lucifer, the bright one, the golden dragon, the serpent.
Morning Star.
Right, the Morning Star. And that planet is no longer here. We see remnants of it. But that planet blew up sometime. Humans seem to have seen it because we do have records of it from humans. So in a way, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think we're at that precipice. We know we're overdue for an ice age. A real one, not the mini ice age. I think we're overdue for a lot of things we probably don't even know about yet, because the universe does seem to operate in cycles, from all data we've seen. And I know a lot of people like to have this superiority complex as if mankind is above nature. No, sweetheart. No, mankind is part of nature, and she will have her due.
Oh,
That's why I'm not,
man.
I am not black-pilled at all, because I know my worldview coincides as well as I possibly can have it do with the laws of nature. And because of that, I'm not worried at all. If I get wiped out, fine. Okay. Death is not, it doesn't scare me like it does a lot of people. It's coming. You will die.
Yeah. Grimlock, could you do me a favor? Could you explain this whole Matrix cringe to me, please? Grimlock?
Matrix cringe?
Yeah, this red pill, blue pill, black pill, purple pill. It's Matrix cringe.
Oh. I'm gonna be honest. I don't spend too much time dealing with that. I'm learning little bits here and there, but I don't totally understand it.
Here's a better, much more academic term for you, even and perfect with communism, thanks to Yuri Bezimov. Demoralized. The enemy needs us to be demoralized. They need us to give up. Now, you can get into all kinds of metaphysical blah 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 blah. Why? Doesn't matter. The reality is they need us to quit. And I refuse to quit. I will never quit to these people. It's not going to happen.
Just as a technical question, what exactly does red, blue, purple, black mean?
From, well, I don't know about purple, but from the Matrix movie, it's just a basic analogy for the truth and the easy lies. So comforting, or hard truths, which is the red pill, easy lies, which is the blue pill. Black pill is basically the pill that kills you. Now, that's not in the movie. It's something people came up with. But it basically means you're demoralized, you're a doomer, you give up. You're like, oh, just let the world burn, I don't care.
Black pill.
It's nihilism. You're black pill.
And red pill would be, based on the Matrix, would be you're awake and aware, I guess. And the blue pill is you're asleep.
Yeah. So a lot of people use it as like a blue-pilled position is something to the effect of diversity is a strength, right? That's a blue-pilled position because it's a lie. That's not true. And CRT is a blue pill position, and a red pill position is no, diversity is not a strength. I mean, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody say that?
Yeah.
All of the most powerful and most long-lasting organisms in existence are very similar and simple. They're not diverse at all. In fact, they're very simple creatures. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Yeah.
But a red pill position is no, diversity actually breeds tension. It breeds distrust, which is why the corporate world has been pushing this stuff, because they know it breeds distrust, so people won't unionize and people won't actually come together and resist the real people who are the problem, which is the super elites, the banksters. But like we were talking about the Rothschilds, people like that. They know what they're doing. It's divide and conquer. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been.
It's always that's true. That is very true. It's they use a lot of Roman techniques. Understand that. I do want to address something in the chat real quick. They talk about Mars and they're kind of getting on the Sitchin thing. I love Zachary Sitchin. I've read all his books. I think he's fun. And he just like Einstein. He offered something to the conversation, right?
Yeah.
We know now that pretty much everything Einstein said is incorrect now, but it doesn't mean Einstein's not that wasn't important. He was. He allowed a step forward, allowed us to get there. Sitchin, I think, did something very similar. He opened up a conversation that was not being happened. Now, however, let me give you a little bit more accurate translation. This is an area that I actually know a lot about, seeing as it's my job. However, here's the thing. Sitchin really pushed the 10th planet thing, right? Nibiru, right? He really pushed. That was and everything else he did was just translations and looking at it with a modern lens instead of the archaic lens. And great, awesome. Here's the problem you have with that. The vast majority of the time, there's been a couple of examples as different, but the vast majority of the time, Nibiru is a real thing, the planet of crossing. It's talking about Mars, right? And the reason why he shows that stela and all these little cylindrical forms and things like that have 10 planets and all the understanding they have, which was quite impressive. The 10th planet was Typhon, which is basically the asteroid belt and comets and stuff that are around right now. But that was Typhon. It wasn't another planet. It's a destroyed planet now. But Mars was Nibiru, everybody. Mars was. Zechariah was. He even mentioned this. If you read his books, that had been mentioned. Mars had been mentioned as Nibiru many times, as well as Jupiter being mentioned. He thought it was something different, and that's fine. However, all the information we have, it's Mars. It's really Mars. And I could be wrong, and he could be right, but I don't think so. Mars was Nibiru. It was the planet of the Anunnaki. They came from there. And the reason why the long 3,000 plus year time frame, if you go back and you read them accurately, what it's actually talking about is similar to our progressional step, right? From Earth's perspective, we're at 2280 years. Is that what it is one zodiac movement, right? It's 2180. Oh, anyway, 2,000 plus years. That's one zodiacal movement. You do that 12 times, you get one movement of the progression, right? That's Earth's perspective. Mars' perspective is more 3,000 plus years. It's different because Mars moves differently, right? So that's where that number is coming from. And the fact that the ancient Mesopotamians knew this is pretty impressive in and of itself, right? However, and then when you add on top of it, there have been so many photos, so much information that seems to show some manner of man-made structure on Mars. There's so much of the evidence that we need to have a serious conversation about it. We just do, right? It could be representing not humans are from there, but the Anunnaki are from there. Because in all the stories we have around the world, whether it be fantastical or science fiction, or science, not science fiction, science-like, they all talk about the humans being constructed here. They all talk about the gods coming from somewhere else and making the humans here. not there. Now, if any of that is true, and there what before the cataclysm they were living on Mars and doing all that stuff, and would there have been human slaves on Mars? Oh, sure, of course there would have been. Would have been a Typhon as well, probably, if any of that is true. However, I don't want to get into a huge long diatribe about it, but uh, Mars is Nibiru, guys. That's the best evidence we have is leaning that way. And now this is according to the ancient stories, and it's impressive what they knew about astrological things, astronomical things as well. Yeah, that's. I just wanted to clarify that. Did I clarify that? I think I did.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. So, Diamond Cohagen. Oh God, that's a total recall joke, isn't it? Pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's finish up today. I got one other thing I want to look at just for quick fun, to have a little fun before we get out of here today. Go ahead. I ain't
Anonymous
mad at her,
email
by the way.
sender.
I ain't mad at her. Go ahead.
Anonymous email sender spreads false rumor that former Jav actress, I'll let Chester say that. Nope. Plan to host anime sex party at Anime Matsuri.
Okay. JAV stands for Japanese Adult Video Person, right? So she's a porn star in Japan, and her name is Kaho Shibuya, and I
Yeah.
don't know who she is, but I ain't mad at her. I ain't mad at that. That's supposed to be Luffy from One Piece, but damn, girl, you got an underboob. That's just kicking ass.
I know who she. I know who she is. She actually has a Twitch stream.
Yeah, here she is, right here.
Um,
But she's a porn girl, and she's a
yeah.
rare Japanese because actually has breasts. Now I know you guys looking at it like, well, that's normal size. Well, yeah, that's Japan. That's gigantic in Japan. This is enormous, triple D version of Japan. That girl's ridiculously large breasted, and therefore you can see about how she was recruited into the porn industry, obviously for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into the whole porn conversation because that's a whole nother conversation. However, the funny thing is this anime matsuri is actually they usually have like it's kind of a hentai type of conference, and they always have a panel where they get up and they kind of they poke fun at hentai is what they're really doing, because they know they get it. It's hentai. It's nonsense. It's ridiculously over sexualized crap. And they get that, and they have fun with it, and I appreciate that. But that's a very Japanese way to look at things, isn't it? However, this story that they're going to have an anime sex party, and I love the information here. And they were going to be giving out free blow jobs and free hand jobs and free tit jobs, which is nice. She had a bunch of her
Nice.
friends coming in. It's good. It's good. And then there was going to be a raffle, and the winner gets to spend the night with her. Nice. So I'm all for it, I guess. If you're a young single man, have fun. Keep in mind here in Japan that those blowjobs, hand jobs, and tit jobs are completely legal. It's just penetrations that's illegal. There's a whole industry built on it. It's called the soap land, and they literally soap and clean you up. How Japanese of them. However, the whole idea of her anime sex party, as wonderful as it might sound to you, is complete and utter fabricated bullshit.
Yep.
There's zero truth whatsoever to it. None at all. They have no clue how this get out. But now they're having to put out all kinds of media to tell people this isn't happening. It's not real. Don't try to get tickets. It's a real thing. I don't know how or why this happened, but it did happen. And talk about an outrageous rumor that got legs under it. And I guess I get it because these are going to be Japanese going mainly and otaku from the West. But I suppose it would be exciting, right? Because right here she says, in this party, me and the anime Matsuri babes will offer blowjobs, handjobs, and tit jobs with sexual conversations. Nice. The email explained. At the end of the party, the luckiest person will spend a night with me at the Marriott Marquis Houston on July 14th with full service. Yeah, baby. Whoo! Okay, this picture's not so good. I don't like the maid thing. This is cute as hell, though. However, Grimlock, are you sad?
Nope, wasn't going anyway. Didn't know that was a thing. So
So Chester, you're telling me I can move to Japan and pay women to wash me in a provocative manner?
Oh no, they'll get you off. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Japan's the greatest country in the
So-
world.
Cost you about
why am I still in the States?
cost you like $80, I think, for
That's it?
$80. Well, I go up into Beppu, and I played a great little live house called the Copper Raven or Brass Raven. No, Copper Raven. It's a great club. I love it, man. But it's set back in the red light district, and that entire street. It's a little teeny street, but it's covered with soaplands, and there must be 20 of them in there. And a soapland is a brothel in Japan, is what it is. And so I've walked by these many times, and I think I've seen the menu board a few times. I think it's like $80. I think I saw 60, 80, and like 120. I don't really know what the various services are, but it's I don't know. I guess that's reasonable, isn't it? But basically, they have, from what I understand, they have two things. They have a room, a little teeny rooms where they girls just basically give you a blowjob. But then they have other bigger rooms where they go in and they clean you up and they soap you up. They're naked and they rub all over you and they'll do all their thing. Technically, you're not supposed to have penetration, but the way it seems to work is that you don't pay for that, but the girls usually give you that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Officially, you don't. That's like escorts, right?
Yeah. But
you don't pay an escort to have sex with her, but come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. It's the same loophole. Even though, however, just in the little city, little town. Well, they call it a city, but it's not. Little town over the mountain from me that I run my business in. In that place, even in their little teeny red light district, you have these girls. Right? They're called shakuhachi girls. Shakuhachi is a Japanese flute.
That's actually hilarious. Oh shit!
Anyway,
The more you know, children, the more you know.
the more you know. I just thought it was kind of hilarious that this rumor, for some reason, and not only that it started. I mean, people start rumors all the time, but it got legs, dude. They're in major damage control here, and this anime matsuri, it's not all hentai, it's anime in general. But they do have that panel every year talking about hentai and stuff like that. But this is a big conference, guys. The anime matsuri is huge. They use the Chiba festival hall, same place they had the Tokyo Comic Con in. It's an enormous space that you can do convention. It's a convention space, but it's really big, and it's probably the biggest in Japan, I think. And so it's a big deal. And this has just got out of hand on them, dude. But I have to say, I really like this Luffy costume. It's growing on me.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let me come over here and let's get ourselves out of here. And let me come back over to the guys. Where am I here? Oh, there it is. Yes. Come in here. Get rid of this. And I have to get this ready. So, Grimlock, give us your closing comments, please.
The stupidity of these people are still in full swing. It's kind of sad to watch,
Well,
especially at a time where there's more information available to the average person than there ever has been before. This is not like the ancient times where you had to be in a certain part of the world under the tutelage of a certain, professor or philosopher. No, you can basically find any sort of information you want while on the can, and people are more invested into their feelings than the truth, and it's pretty sad.
It sounded like you were going with the life of Caligula on Lifetime. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Grimlock. Go ahead, Thunder. Take us out of here, man.
I have a very simple thing to say. Never, ever, ever, ever become demoralized to these people. Everything they do, all of it, is to get you to be demoralized. There's a famous quote by an ancient man. And this is something I think we all are going to have to learn here in the West. Chester will probably miss it because he's in Japan, hopefully. But I think a lot of good men are going to have to learn real quick. Out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters. And we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. Right now, we're getting divided very quickly between the ones who shouldn't even be there, the ones who are just the targets, and the ones who are the fighters. And all it will take is one warrior to pull us back over the edge. It's happened before, and I think it's going to happen again. I don't know who that man is. I have a guess, and I hope he's up to the task. But I do not give up hope. As long as your heart is still beating red blood and your lungs are still breathing air, it is not over. Never give up hope.
Tell them who that quote's from.
Heraclitus. That's who the quote originally is from.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We will check you out. Keep in mind, tomorrow we're doing comic book news today, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there are a lot of interesting stories I didn't cover today. It was a good week for news. So we will have plenty to talk about tomorrow, and we will see you then. Later.
Bye.